Okay. So yeah, I figure it's I was looking over these and it's like, okay, there's System Gateway and System Update 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and then technically there's the surplus. What do they call it? There were like the 16 cards they just threw in for like a month or two.
Oh, salvaged memories was what they called
Yeah,
it.
that was a different bit that went out, but
Yep.
yeah, we've got a number of things to talk about, things to go over for Netrunner. Hello, hello, everybody. Um, it's Netrunner time. I'm here. Dakota's here.
Hey, Netrunner time.
Yep, and we're going to spend some time first talking about what has changed, because as of you can see this March 28th, 2021. I think that was that must have been the release date because all the spoilers were.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the
So
day.
as of about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at this point, um, there has been a pair of new releases in Netrunner. Uh, it's a pair of new releases and a set rotation, which completely shifts what the format looks like. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, we're gonna spend some time going over uh, the new cards because there's a lot there that is really interesting. We're gonna spend some time talking about stuff that left, stuff that's coming in, what changes with that, and then do a couple games.
Yeah, sounds good.
So yeah, if I go over here, but yeah, so to quick talk about format, this is probably the best way to show this. We have uh Netrunner technically has a bunch of formats, but standard is the one that gets the most tournament support.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was recently a tournament that was System Gateway only or
So
something.
there's been a couple tournaments recently. There was one that was like right around the
So
launch that was only playing the like I guess pre-con decks that you can
yeah,
build from the system gateway. And then there was also a couple recently that were of the startup format, which I believe is just all of the Nisei cards.
yes, this I think is all like this is the like full rotate out anything that hasn't been printed in a Nisei
Mm-hmm.
bit. So you can see a lot of these like you get two printings because uh like they were reprinted. Corporate Troubleshooter here.
Yep.
Wow, it's got three arts. Yeah, Eli with its reprint. So there were a number of reprints of the FFG era cards, but then there's also the newer era stuff. So, startup I feel like is one of those formats that is probably going to become a larger format like pretty quick here once we have a large enough
Yeah, I
pool,
mean,
right?
I absolutely. I mean, if Nisei keeps going, at a certain
Yeah,
point in the future, they will rotate out all of the FFG cards, and there will only be Nisei cards in standard.
yeah. So yeah, standard right now consists of if I go into set, this actually shows the release by release. So we had, as far as FFG releases go, the releases were 6 data packs to make up a cycle, and then
Mm-hmm.
the boxes.
Yep.
Uh, Standard was Order and Chaos Forward before rotation, and is now Data and Destiny
Plus Order
for.
and Chaos, which didn't rotate.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, sorry, it was
It's
Honor. It was weird because it was Honor and Profit Forward. Oh,
well, so Lunar was already out, I think.
the drop
It's
down
just
isn't
kind of weird.
showing. Oh, they can't see the drop down when I'm doing that. All right, let me change
Oh,
the. Hold on, let me change the view so that you can see when I'm doing a drop down. It's visible. Um, 1 moment, because yeah, if you can't see what I'm talking about, then clearly this is okay. So this you can see this drop down here. Um, this drop down is again all these different cycles. Standard was Honor and Profit forward, but not lunar.
mm-hmm.
Like, because originally the FFG idea was they weren't going to rotate boxes,
Mm-hmm.
but like if we take a look at creation and control, it's like we have some of the most powerful like
Yeah,
format defining cards, specifically if we're looking at clone chip, if we're looking at SMC, where yeah, Levy,
Levy was a
if
big
we're
one.
looking at
SMC was a big
SMC,
one.
like these
Yeah.
three in particular are incredibly format defining. Uh, they,
Mm-hmm.
they, the combination of clone chip plus SMC, self modifying code. Self modifying code is to search for a program and play it. Uh, clone chip is put a program from your heap, which, by the way, can be SMC, into play. That recursion tutor, like, defined Shaper forever.
Yeah.
So that got
And it honestly, yeah, it made Shaper the faction of rig building and also being able
so
to build a rig during a run even.
so they didn't want that to be like stuck in the game. So the rotation in here is rotating out these boxes. The current rotation rotated out Honor and Profit. Honor and Profit was the criminal plus Jinteki box.
Mm-hmm.
This one had a number of not gigantically defining bits for Jinteki, but like things like House of Knives, things like
Mushin Notion was huge.
Mushin Philotic.
Yeah. Honestly though, because like before this box came out, Jinteki was trash and kind of
Yes,
had been for since the game came out, honestly.
it was missing a lot of key pieces,
Mm-hmm.
and not a lot of the and like honestly, not a lot of the criminal was big. Criminal was already one of the strongest factions, so when they got their box, it was kind of pulled back. Your best stuff was stuff like security testing,
Yeah. Was there even anything else that saw play in here?
legwork.
Legwork. Yeah.
Like none of the idents were really big at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Honor and Profit is rotated, and it currently is rotated forward from like Sansan is out, but Order and Chaos, which is the this
Wayland
is
Anarch
Wayland
box.
Anarch box. So
Yep.
anyway, what I want to touch on today is the newer cards that we have, because there are two updates that happened with the rotation. The first is system update. This is a change to so there's this core set that is the set of first cards that came out, and the core set, the way it works in rotation is the newest core set just overwrites what was in the oldest. A thing to note about Netrunner is that the core set is far and away the most powerful set of cards that existed in FFG's Netrunner, bar none.
Yeah.
There's no competition to the power level of the core set. So the core set has been rotated a number of times, even by FFG themselves. The revised core set was their rotation at it.
Mm-hmm.
System update takes the core set, rotates out everything that isn't in system update. So there's a number of reprints in here that change, that are like, okay, this is where we want kind of the baseline to be.
Yeah. So this whole set is all reprinted cards.
Yeah. So you can see when
Um.
it pulls it up, it's going to pull up all of the
Yeah.
variants on these.
The logic as well with reprinting these cards is that now that Netrunner is kind of a dead game, people may not have access to these older card packs, even if they do get rotated back into standards. So they had to make a way for people to get access to these
Yeah.
without having to go onto eBay and
Ooh.
buy, old packs from Sansan or Lunar or
Right.
whatever.
So, Strange MD, thank you very much for the sub. Yeah, so like a number of some of these are cards just from the core set. Archive Memories, Biotic Labor, Corporate Troubleshooter. But then you have cards that are like from these much more forward sets that, reprinting them here makes it so okay, everyone has access to them. Uh, it also shifts kind of like the baseline is.
Yeah.
For instance, we have Vitruvius over accelerated beta testing. I think that might have been a change made in the first one, not this one, but that
Hmm.
Nisei Mark II kind of is this is our base level of what agendas are going to look like within a faction, and it also defines what a faction is going to be good at.
Daily business shows back in. That one I'm less pleased about.
Yeah. Um, so there's a lot of rotation stuff. Oh boy.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a ton of different promos that exist within uh here, especially with player created ones in here.
Hmm.
But like the core set is just made to be a lot of these like core cards that have ended up being kind of key for a lot of things. Chrysium is one that
Yeah.
sees a lot.
Or like Hostile. I mean, that's such a Wayland card,
Yeah. Uh, Counter Strike.
Punitive as well. Yeah. Massively Wayland.
So, but that's less of that's a shakeup that is like, oh, this old card comes back in, subliminal messaging up there was a new one. Maybe certain decks might want to take advantage of this as a one of in their list, or we might see uh, r- certain. Ooh, hey,
Hmm.
I love this art.
The raccoon with the
I
briefcase.
love, you know, um, we're gonna see changing what are base idents or what access people have. Prepaid, I think, is a one of the reprints that is actually pretty significant because prepaid economy is one that different net runner decks have taken advantage of historically,
Yeah.
but
Though
wasn't in
honestly, the runner economy has changed quite a bit.
right.
So I don't feel like prepaid is gonna be as good as it used to be.
I don't think it'll be as good, but I like that it's because it exists now. It is this option. Okay, what if I do want to build, especially with the new, we're going to see some new cards in System Gateway that could be a direction that you want to build off prepaid.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Wildcat Strike and the two
Shaper ones.
Shaper ones come to mind.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, let's pull those up so we can talk over some new cards though, because that is where the real shit is. Uh, One of the things I'm really interested in as far as play wise with this is because this is a game that is past FFG. It's past its existence as a effectively a for profit entity.
Yep.
Uh, it's a game that is being designed by players who want its existence to continue as their major, uh, uh, motivation.
Motivation, yeah, for sure. For
So,
sure.
there's a lot of cards in here that are like, okay, this is some like really powerful, like pushing the envelope style stuff, but in different ways that says to me like, okay, are we like we're interested in pushing the game to a different like direction, but we're not like it's not power creep for the sake of selling cards. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
And what's really interesting too about Nisei, I love reading all of the like
it's big.
articles that talk about the thought that went into creating the card and like how it ended up how it is. Something that we didn't get to see with FFG very much was like, sort of the be
Right,
behind the scenes sort of tweaking and stuff like that. I mean, we saw a little bit back in
right,
a couple of the cycles, but
right. Back in like basically Boombot Forward.
yeah, what was the one where Temujin was printed? That wasn't Moonbat, I don't think. I think it was the one after Moonbat, but
Titanfall.
like Seifer and just there were just
Yeah.
some cards that were just gross
So
and had no reason to be printed.
yeah, but yeah. So taking a look at what we've got here, we've got the continuation of championship cards. You
Yeah,
can
I
see
think
here on
that's really
Ansel.
cool. I got one of those in here.
Ansel here is really goddamn cool. We also have a note here on there's a number of like wording changes within the system gateway. Let me go ahead and pull up Corp
Yeah, I
HP.
found like the old
Nice.
Eli or something.
And let's just go No, that's not helpful. Yeah, thanks.
One of the few sets that, yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
So Eli here, uh, the runner can spend click to break any subroutine on Eli. This is a common thread on different Bioroid ice. You have click to break, or in bigger instances, where's the 2.0? Heimdall
There you
here.
go.
Double click to break 2, and triple click to break 3. Um, if we looking back at System Gateway, rather than that being worded, the runner may spend click to break a subroutine, it is now worded with a cost effect wording so that you know that this is a timing window structured ability. You know that this is a lose click ability. Like there was always a bit of question about the timing on when that occurred.
Hmm.
If it was a number of things. There's a number of different. We're going to see wording changes on this.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think we can really overstate how good this is for the game. I mean, there was a long time back when FFG was running this game where the only way to get an answer to a rules question was to ask, one of the devs and have them say
Yeah,
X works like Y. But
I can.
now, I mean, they're really putting in a lot of work to try to make those, sort of questions
Yep.
disappear.
Yep. So yeah, taking a look at Ansel. Ansel's one I'm actually super interested in
Ansel
playing
seems
with.
really good.
Uh,
Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Ichi 1.0.
yeah, it is. It's funny because we have it's again Bioroid means it's a lot looser of ice. Uh, you run into this and like I can go ahead and click past the trash a runner card so I don't lose my shit. Um, or like if I really need to run through, I can click past the can't steal or trash. But
Hmm.
that line there is almost end the run.
Yeah, like I
Like
mean, this card has 3 relevant subs, and
so,
the runner only has 4 clicks on a turn, so they're not going to be able to effectively, break very many
yeah.
of them.
How does I'm on a quick check versus how do I spell?
Buchalter,
Yep.
Buh, I think. No, Buk. There it is.
Okay, it's 6 to break with Buchalter, with a refund of 2. That's what I
Yep.
wanted to check on that. One of the things to note about when you're looking at cards, you can't really look at things in a vacuum. Back in the day of Yogg.0, you couldn't play code gates of 3 or less, and you kind of have
Yep.
to know. So, like, Bran here is likely going to be broken for 5.
Yeah.
Let's,
Paperclip.
Paperclip breaks that for +5 strength, break 5 subs.
Yep.
One thing we're seeing here, a lot of emphasis on the recursion aspect of HB.
Yeah,
And
it
so,
definitely seems like one of the themes they're pushing for in this set.
yeah. I'm not as huge on Brown here,
Yeah.
but it is like nice, large, like
Yeah.
you know,
It's a decent like mid-size barrier, Yeah, I could see it getting played.
yeah. Um, Couple HP cards that are super interesting here. Every faction gets a new identity here,
Hmm.
and HB's here is one that I want to call it the most powerful of the 7. I
It
might
might be.
like
It might just be.
so. You can see here we got a deck size is what this bubble is, 40 minimum. What that means is that with the corpse side, your deck size determines how many agenda points you have to play in your deck. Um, so a 40 size is 18, 19. Is that?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So you have to play between 40 and 44, and you get 18 to 19 points. The norm uh, before this, 45, was 20 to 21 on a 40 to 40, 45 to 49 card deck.
Hmm.
Um, so this lets you get away with like smaller deck, but smaller agendas. Uh,
Yeah.
Uh,
I think the math works out to where the smaller deck has a slightly higher like concentration of points versus the 45 card deck.
yeah,
But
if I remember the math, the actual like lowest concentration is at uh if I remember this right, it's at 54 actually. Um
maybe I was actually doing a little bit of like number crunching the other day. So it actually does continue to decrease as you add more cards to your deck. So I did build the quote unquote optimal corp deck for
mm,
for point density, and it ended up being here, let me check.
oh my god.
I call it the big green W. It is 259 cards in a min 40 deck.
Oh
I
my
think that
god.
is literally the biggest corp deck you can build
Two,
legally in
200
standard.
okay, so that would be every agenda possible. Oh god.
Yep.
Would you like to bring Battle of Wits to your Netrunner event?
Right.
Um,
Uh,
that rules. But the big thing here is the +1 hand size is like a small boon. We've actually seen that on,
NBN, the world is yours
yes,
from back in Genesis, which
yeah,
was also 40 card deck, but only had 12 influence and no other text. So this is quite a bit better than that card.
yeah. The secondary on this, which is when you score, add a card from archive, stage Q, which is grave to hand. Um, this means that it sets up scoring loops really strongly. Things like biotic uh, scoring loops, or things like we're going to see a couple other cards that work in similar fashions to it because Seamless
Mm-hmm.
Launch is right down here. But like these big scoring loops that are just like, okay, every turn I can just score an agenda, come out, maybe even positive on money, and then try to score again next turn.
Yeah. Something interesting for core play is that recurring cards from your archives or your, trash pile is really valuable. Sometimes you have to dump a card in there that you want to keep because you need to hold points in your hand or something like that.
Yeah,
And this lets you, go and get it, or you can get more value out of cards you're already playing. Especially cards that you're spending your influence on, you can get more value out of that.
right. Also, the +1 hand size defends against that as well because you might not be
Yep,
overdrawing,
you'll probably
discarding.
be overdrawing or discarding due to overdraw less often. Yeah.
Yeah. Luminal transubstantiation.
Instantiation.
Transubstantiation. Fuck.
Yep.
There's one more syllable in there. Anyway, um, this is a cycle. Um, these are so 3/2s in Netrunner are generally very strong. Uh, only for their stat line, honestly. Sorry, are strong for their stat line immediately, and their text is just gravy because a 3/2 is, if you install it, pass, and then you can advance it 3 times, score. Or if you have a way of installing it for free or having an extra click, you can install it from hand and score.
Hmm.
So there's a cycle of these limit 1 per deck 3/2s that all have like really strong secondaries. This one here is again super good for setting up your follow-up turn because
Yeah.
you can't score on you effectively get a second turn. You time walk on this
Hmm.
on score, and you can use that to continue to set up for score number 2 next turn. Uh, maybe
You can even make use of the card that you returned with your
yeah,
HB
yes,
trigger. Yeah.
or recover the economic cost of scoring the card.
Hmm.
uh, there's a number of ways that this ends up really really strong.
Yep.
Like these are I would wager with I think one of them as maybe an exception, and even then you probably played as a 3/2. Uh, these are as close to like auto include agendas as you're going to see, which is why they're one
Yeah.
per deck.
And very rarely will you ever click for 3 credits when you score that. And honestly, a 3-2 that said when you score it, gain 3 would be quite good.
Yeah.
So,
So uh,
Managarms. Skunkworks. This one's pretty cool. So this is like a reprint of a card from the core set called Ash something something.
Yeah, if I just pull up,
Yeah, you have to change the format back to
oh, it's,
Legacy.
right, it's not standard.
Yeah,
If I pull up Ash, then some numbers. Here's
there
Ash
it
and
is.
some numbers. Ash and some numbers is when there's a successful run, trace, and then they can only access Ash. Generally, this means the runner has to spend 4 plus whatever you spend. Um, Again, if we go back to what, uh, that's,
Yeah, get rid of the search filter.
yes, haha. If we go back to Skunkworks, about the same cost. Like,
Yeah, honestly, this just seems like a more reasonable Ash where the corp can't just lock you out by being rich as hell, which is what you did quite a few times to me
but
back in the day.
the difference is that Ash, even on a failure, let you in to kill Ash.
That's true. This
This
doesn't do that.
this
I
does
actually did
not.
not notice that.
This
Interesting.
this one just says end the run,
Yeah.
which makes
Huh.
it a much more dangerous proposition if it's dropped as a surprise on you.
Yeah, if you're
Like,
not ready for this, that really sucks to waste a run.
because you need 8 total to get in and
Yeah.
kill it. 5, either 2 clicks or so. Like, this is going to be a pretty good defensive structure. It's not unassailable, which is one of the problems I always had historically with Caprice, was that,
Mhm.
like, Skunkworks here, if your opponent is at a high credit total, they can just walk in and uh, beat it. Like, but Caprice, it's just like, well, no, you're 2/3 to get out,
Yep.
Um, so yeah, this is something I suspect, and one of the decks I have here is definitely playing.
Yeah.
Skunkworks, see how it plays. There's another card that I think is a stronger variant on this. We'll see in Jinteki.
Mhm.
But yeah, Nico campaign. The campaigns, I'm going to be doing this a lot. Campaign. Uh, these have been historically sets of cards that are, uh, for one, in HB, but are like assets that give you recurring money. You
Yep.
pay 1, you get 6 on this. Maryland is one of the most recent pay 2 to get 8 over 4 turns. This is pay 2 to get 9 over 3 turns and a card when it falls.
Mhm.
The older variants, Adonis and Eve campaign. Adonis was core. This was 4 for 12.
Yep.
And then,
And was played for quite a long time too,
yeah,
if
and
I recall.
Eve was 5 for 16, but slower because it's
Mhm.
over 8 turns instead of 4. The upside of these cards is that they give you a consistent money drip that's going to be able to feed your plays. The downside being, they are trashable. Your opponent can walk in and knock out your economy.
Yep.
Maryland is the one that sees the most play these days, as it refunds itself immediately.
Mhm.
And if it would be trashed, it just kind of recurs. Nico is looking at the same stat area, so that's why I wanted to pull it up as comparison. Uh, because Nico here, they're for one, on first res, so you res this at end step and then you get your 3, you're getting a +1.
Mhm.
Whereas Maryland is neutral. And you're getting more money over time from Nico quicker than you are from Maryland. The downside being easier to trash and no recursion on it.
Yep.
So,
But otherwise, I think a pretty solid card. I think it stands in for Adonis quite well.
yeah, I'm really interested to see what we see between a split on Maryland and Nico.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
It's
I
not immediately clear which one is better.
because, like, if you have a deck that wants to have a continuous, like, I think Nico wants to be in something quicker, especially with a draw on its finish.
Mhm.
Whereas Maryland is just like 2, 2, 2, 2, and also shuffling it into the deck is a defense on R&D.
Yeah, it probably means you're looking more for the long game.
So, um, and clear that. Seamless Launch, this is one that I am super interested in playing with as well, because this is another way of jumping the curve on time. Anytime you have time compression, click compression that lets you advance things quicker, like it's always a played card.
Mm-hmm.
Audacity, Trickle Light, Seamless Launch, it fits in.
Astro, Sansan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Place 2 investment counters on an installed card that you did not install this turn, either by you having tricked it into play on your opponent's turn with an ice, or having played it and then you play down a 4/2 agenda pass, and it's like, well, is that a asset? Is that what is that? And then score it.
Yeah, it's cool that it lets you naked advance 4/2s, which is something that you can't normally do as Corp.
Yeah. And then sprint here is one of the more interesting defensive options. One of the worst things that you can have going on in the game of Netrunner is those games where you draw 4 agendas and you got just fuck all.
Mm-hmm.
Sprint is one of the cards in the new set that not only is aggressively costed that you'd actually want to play, but helps out that sort of issue.
Yeah, very good card. It draws you cards and lets you deal with the overflow all for one click and 0 credits. And it's only one influence too, which is really great.
It's funny to me that it is so Sprint exists in, it was an NBN card. The just draw 3.
Yeah, that was anonymous
Anonymous
tip.
tip.
Yeah.
And it's really funny to me that adding the text, you must, shuffle 2 cards from HQ into deck, doesn't make it a worse card and might make it stronger.
Yeah, right? Like if this was Magic, it would be like, well, obviously
it's weaker. You play
Recall over Brainstorm, but yeah.
Yeah. But no, because of the way that you might want to be hiding cards. But yeah, it's what we see here in HB with its cards. We see a lot of focus on its recursion. We have 3 cards immediately that have recursion, and we have little bits of defense, fast advance, things like that, trying to support in a couple different directions.
Yeah.
So
yeah, overall pretty good. I think
yeah.
for just, what is it, 8 cards even? Is that all it is?
I think it's 8 cards per.
Wow. Yeah.
So, Jinteki, Anoetic?
Anoetic, I think.
Anoetic? Yeah. That would make more sense. Anoetic Void. When the runner approaches the server, you can pay 2 and trash 2 cards from HQ and the run. I will read that again because I didn't catch this the first 4 times I read the card. When the runner approaches the server, you may pay 2 and trash 2 cards from HQ. If you do end the run, this card does not trash itself. It still sits there.
Yep.
So, if you have enough cards in hand, enough cash, go away.
Yeah, so if this card existed at a time when Cerebral Imaging was a deck, you would just have a server that could not be accessed by the runner.
Yeah.
But trashing cards from HQ is a very heavy cost for the corp. HQ is your hand, and it's one of the only ways for you to actually protect your agendas while you're not trying to score them.
Yeah.
So having to dump them into archives just can totally screw you.
Right. But on the same side, a free 0 to res, and so pay 2 and trash. The biggest thing here is this is approach server, which is past all the odds.
Yep.
So
they gotta run through it all again.
So they run through everything. Then you say go away. They run through everything. Maybe they say go away a second time. Who knows?
Yep.
It's cheap to trash because you want to be finding it in HQ and killing it.
Yeah.
I expect to be seeing this card in a number of either Glacier style or just slower style Jinteki. And honestly, even at 4 influence, I expect it outside of Jinteki as well.
It might get splashed. I honestly think that there probably are stronger defensive upgrades in other factions, perhaps, but this one is quite good.
Yeah. Well, the thing that makes it powerful to me and that idea is that it's something you can stack with other defensive upgrades, right?
That too, yeah, definitely. You can have this and Skunkworks, and you get to or
So you go Skunkworks trigger, they pay 5, then you go,
is it
okay.
is it runner decides the trigger or corp decides? I think corp decides trigger.
Oh
I
God.
think because it's corp cards, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that actually is a. I know that there was a change. The one thing I do know is that there was a change to timing windows that I don't think you can Nisei counter after Anoetic Void, but before access anymore.
I think that's correct. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that
that
was a
that
change
sounds
in
right.
approach. So
Yep.
I uh Diviner's funny. Uh this is made to be really cheap disruption. Uh that like if it goes off, it is supposed to have a 50-50 like end the run on it.
Hmm.
0 is not odd.
You know, it's kind of interesting, right? Because sure your head tells you it's 50-50, but it's
Right,
actually not really, right?
right,
Because you could build a runner deck that's all odd cost cards or whatever.
right. That and like what are the most you can kind of know from like cards that exist, and once you see this card, like do you play out your odd numbered things a little more? This is made to be
Yeah,
cheap disruption.
yeah,
Um, something on the line, but like that also can end the run, which is not usually what you see on this sort of disruption.
yeah. You also
Uh,
don't usually see net damage on code gates, I think. At least not as often. Like this looks more like a sentry to
This
me than a
does
code
look
gate.
like this does look more like a sentry than a code gate. The card that comes to mind, by the way, when I'm thinking of this cost and this thing is
Yep, that's what I was thinking of too.
this
Which
piece.
this card rotated with Sansan.
That's sad. This was my favorite dumb trap in the world because like an early runner still wants to be very aggressive
Hmm.
because like you run into ice. What's ice going to do? Number one, stop you. Number two, depending on the matchup, it might have some bad stuff on it. Early in the game, bad stuff like installing cards from heap, things like that can be bad, but not debilitating. Tags from MBN, annoying for your economy, but not the worst. Cortex lock, you died
Yep, can just kill you.
because unused MU, you have 4 starting, and then installed cards. Use that up. You can see on a runner, 4. There it is.
Yep. Honestly, I've had games. I honestly don't remember if this was me or my opponent, but where they go turn one, throw down their console, and then run in a Cortex lock, and then immediately die
Yeah, just whoops! You died.
because they have 5 mem
I've
and 4
definitely
cards in
I've
hand.
I've definitely done it, but I know the time I remember doing it was I was like Andromeda, and it's like, wow, this freaking sucks, but
At least you're
at
alive.
least I had 9 cards. It's fine.
Oh man,
All right, I'd say review.
concept review. I think this
This
is pretty interesting. It's a better hedge fund with a pretty serious drawback.
yeah, it's a pretty interesting one, especially because it's useful to take it in concert with restoring humanity here,
Hmm.
which at the end of your turn, effectively after
Yep.
discard, if there are face down cards in archives, you discard face down, and if the runner runs it, they flip them all face up and view them and access them. Um, but like that is part of what this setup is for. You trash a card from HQ, trash your face down, then you get another dollar from restoring humanity.
Yeah.
Or if this is the only card in HQ, no drawback.
Yeah.
Obviously, setting up that is difficult, but
It's not impossible, but rare.
so
Yeah. Restoring humanity is pretty interesting to me. I think it looks all right. I mean, it honestly reminds me a little bit of ETF, even though ETF was definitely stronger. It's just like a free drip once per turn.
yeah, and
As long as you're able to keep cards face down in archives.
yeah, and really all you need to do is get one down there. The one that it reminds me of is, I guess, if I just go side corp, Jinteki. ident, and then kill this.
Yeah.
The one that makes me think of immediately is genomics. Because
Really? Oh, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
not because of their ability. Their abilities are quite different, but the counterplay is going to look a little similar. Of like, you really do, you know, you're going to be defending archives a little more than usual because of,
Maybe. Honestly, really what it is you're just incentivizing the runner to check archives more often, which
which can be a waste of their time.
yeah, most games that's a waste of time. The runner typically doesn't run archives unless they suspect there's actually points in there or they have some other reason to do it.
Yeah,
So maybe honestly, maybe it's a little bit like RP in that fact where it can waste runner clicks.
yeah, and like it also, if you are using it as a way to generate cash here, uh, it's also 40. So
Hmm.
40, by the way, minimum. You can just, if you want to play 45, go for it.
Hmm.
Um, you are not required to play the 40 to 44 on the printed ident, but so it is a full upside to be at this. Um, but yeah, there have been a couple different attempts at making a Jinteki. If you run archives while it has face down cards, they do get turned face up. Yes, that is how face down cards get turned face up. When
Hmm.
archives is accessed by the runner, all face down cards are flipped face up. So, like, the counterplay is running archives, but also, what if now that we don't have shock, which is the card that would make this dumb.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna pull up shock because shock was this um trick that anytime it's accessed they take a net damage even from R&D, and first thought is, oh wow, it's a trap that defends R&D and HQ. Second, oh wow, it's a I can have it on the board and maybe they run into it and they take one. The third, wait, that doesn't say not from archives,
Yep. Yep.
because if I look at typing snare, ignore this effect if snare is accessed from archives, but shock does not do that. So you throw 3 shocks in the grave, and running archives is now death. You die. Stop it. You can't do this anymore. This action will kill you. Would you like to
Yeah.
proceed? Like
Shock was one of my favorite cards, honestly.
I I liked it a lot, and then playing against like Geonomics, where it's just like, and then there's 2 shocks in archives. And you're like, wow, this sucks.
Yeah, Genomics was not a very fun deck to play against, but
Genomics is where I still like the card a lot. It's just, boy,
yeah.
howdy, play like. So right now, I think the only tricks we have that trigger from
So
Grave
okay,
are,
the only ones I know of are Space Camp
yep,
and I think I want to say News
News
Team.
Team. Yeah,
Yeah.
News Team is the other I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Typing is hard. News Team is take 2 tags or minus an agenda point, which could be something, but they have to fear tags for this to do anything. And
Yeah.
then Space Camp is advance a card, win access.
Yeah. Honestly, this card is pretty cool, I think, but it's never really seen play,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
um Shiku has it. Shiku, okay, yeah, Shiku is the one that would be, but this rotated.
Yep.
You pay X.
Yeah, and that one specifically doesn't trigger from R&D for some reason.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there have been a couple of different attempts at the Jinteki economy ident. Polana is the main
Hmm.
one. Um,
And so that one will get you money without uh, effectively without having to put in any effort whatsoever.
yes,
The runner's going to draw cards, you're going to get money.
this one's going to take effort, but the 40 is hopefully your plus on
Yeah,
here, and
40 is the advantage, and it can potentially last the whole game. Like usually runners will stop drawing at a certain point, especially against a Polana, but
yep.
with this one, maybe you get to keep it the whole game.
Uh, Karuna here is effectively a shift on Neural Katana.
Hmm.
Neural Katana is literally exact text. Sentry AP 4/3. Deal 3 net damage on 1 sub. This one is deal 2. They may leave, deal 2. Um,
Yeah. This ice is a little disappointing, honestly. Like, it never does the thing that you want it to do.
Right. It can only ever do 2 damage or cost them. The problem is it only costs them 3 to break with
MK Ultra
like
is a big problem.
MK Ultra's 3, Begalter's 4 -2.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not very
it's
taxing, and for
it's
4 credits, like it doesn't feel worthwhile.
right. So it is a side grade on Neural Katana, but um, no, dear Wazen, I you have my sympathies. But yeah, so I don't know. It's fine. It's not gonna.
Yeah,
I'm probably not. Like, there are a lot of other more either ice with more teeth or ice that are more taxing. Right. This
yep,
doesn't compete in either. Uh,
yeah.
Longevity Serum is the 3/2 in Jinteki. When you score it, you can trash anything from HQ, then shuffle up to 3 cards from archives and R&D. The trash on HQ is just a text that like makes it so it doesn't say like trash from shuffle from HQ or archives. Like it
Yeah,
lets
you
you.
can throw it in your heap and then throw it back in your deck.
Yeah.
So
So this is a recursive piece. You can either use it to hide agendas if you're over flooded, or more likely recur key traps, key economic pieces, key gameplay bits.
mhm. Yep,
Also works with restoring
restoring
humanity as
humanity. Yep,
it'll throw
quite
something
good.
down there.
And
Um,
it's just a 3/2, which is fine on its own, even if it doesn't do anything.
right. Because
I'm still happy to play it.
worst case for this card, it's recurring 3 pieces of like economy. Like you're
Yeah,
rarely gonna decline the trigger.
yeah. I don't think you ever decline the trigger. There's always something worthwhile to shuffle back.
Yeah.
Um, Worst case is probably you have to shuffle in like 3 agendas from HQ, but at that point you're really happy to have this card. So
Right. So uh I don't think it's as strong directly as the HB1, but it's still very good.
yeah, Neurospike. This is a cool card.
This feels like it's got some sort of combo where you're just going to murder the opponent with this. Like
There are combos where you murder the opponent.
that's what this immediately feels like. 2x next damage, where X is the sum of printed agenda points on agendas you scored this turn.
Yep.
Printed, huh?
Yep.
That
Yeah, so that it works favorably with GFI, although rarely do agendas get worse in your
your
score
score
area,
area, yeah.
and this
They
only triggers
actually,
off of agendas that you score, not ones that are stolen.
yeah. This is made to do some sort of combo nonsense. And like when it goes off, it's gonna feel really good because you like double Neurospike and they take 6 or something.
Pull up a card called Re-Education. It's one I saw today that was very interesting. Re-Edu, there it is. When you score it, add any number of cards from HQ to the bottom of R&D and then draw that many. The runner randomly adds the same number of cards from their grip to the bottom of the stack of Fable.
Hmm.
Seems like a really easy way to get the
Hmm.
runner below 3 cards in hand.
Hmm.
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 So I score this, and HP is pretty good at being able to get additional scoring going off.
Oh, this is NBN, not HP.
Sorry, I said HB, but I meant NBN
Okay.
because
Okay, good.
HB is good at getting extra clicks. NBN is good at getting extra secret advancement bullshit. Sansan
Yeah.
and Test, the upgrade that puts an advancement counter on.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name now.
Yeah, I know it's completely gone from my memory.
It's gonna hurt me.
Uh, uh,
Calibration testing? Is that
calibration
it?
testing, yes.
Is that it? Yeah, must be it.
Yeah, there it is. So things like that. But so
Yeah. So
okay,
the difficulty with that combo then is finding a way to score re-education and have clicks left over afterwards.
you only need one though
You
because
only need 1 click, but
okay, that's
typically with 5/3s you do not score it and then have clicks left over. Typically.
okay. So you use all right. Hold on. You use did you use rotate? No.
Nope. Jesus in.
Uh, you
You can use
use
G's, you can use the new HB one.
yeah. There's a
What's that one called?
so that seems like a very interesting like because runner hand size is 5. You make them shuffle away 3 cards, then you kill them with Neurospike.
Nope. And there's other things too, like Wayland has CityWorks project, which is pretty good with that as well.
Yes.
It's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of choice the runner has.
Uh,
But yeah, pretty cool.
Urtica Cypher here is a play on. I'm gonna just pull up Junebug. Junebug was a core set card that could be advanced. You paid 1 when it was accessed, deal 2 for each advancement. So you'd install advance, they'd run, touch it, take 4. When we're looking at. Wow, that. Scroll all the way down. We're looking at Urtica, install advance. They take 4 touching it. You don't pay 1. It also has a trash cost.
Yeah. So not having to pay to trigger it's actually really, really good because there were a lot of times where the counterplay to perhaps like Junebug was just steal the corpse money and then break it.
Yeah. Well,
So
also,
having this just fire on its own is really nice.
it also doesn't need to be installed advance. This could just be installed out there and be a half a snare, you know?
Yep. Yep, it's true. Just 2 free damages.
Yep.
Fine.
So I like this sort of trick. I like the existence of it, and I like them to be like playable because you want to have, if you're playing tricks like this, there's a couple different contingencies you need a card for, because you need to be able to make your opponent want to run, not want to run, and like, but also like think that it's completely harmless. Is this like secret third one? Like,
Yeah.
so Urtica is, I do not want to run this card because I will die, but not running this card will do nothing bad to me. That is the perfect defense. An agenda is, I want to run this. I want to steal the agenda. But then you have something like Ronin, which is, if you choose not to run it, and we'll see a Wayland card a little later as well that fits this, you get heavily punished for not walking in and killing the card.
Mhm.
So, like,
Yeah, and that whole gameplay of the hidden info, playing the shell game is really what makes Netrunner fun.
persistent. Ooh, we gotta.
Yeah, so there's a new keyword, which is the reminder text for if the runner trashes this card while accessing it, it
Oh,
still applies.
okay. So this is like a keyword for an extant bit. When a run on the server ends, if the runner stole any agendas this turn, that run, double tag. Even
Yeah.
if this is trashed.
Yep.
Okay. Free commemorative souvenir.
Yeah, I think this is pretty cool. It can create like a similar sort of case where, say you're trying to score, and if you have this in the server, if the runner steals it, you know, that's good for them, but they also take 2 tags, and then maybe bad stuff happens. Maybe they die.
Yeah, maybe they lose a chunk of their board, lose some economy. Like tagging has changed drastically from being easy death these days. Scorched Earth obviously isn't around. I think Boom is
Boom is still around,
still around.
as well as high profile target.
Yeah, high profile target is the type we see nowadays. With 2 damage
Yeah.
per tag. Um, this
Interesting.
the one thing to note with this, when you're accessing, when you run a server, and this is an upgrade, it sits in a server with cards. Say they access, a maze amusements, they probably know, well, fuck, the other card's an agenda, right? I'm gonna get like hit, and the answer is yes. You can't decline anymore. You're too far into the run. Like once
Yeah,
you,
they have to steal it if they're able.
yeah. So
Yep.
Funhouse here is a new version of Data Raven,
Data
effectively.
Reboon, which is one of the all-time strongest NBN ices.
Yeah, sadly a much weaker sub,
Yeah,
in my
sub's
mind.
not as good.
Um, which is kind of funny there. The idea, by the way, is that the current dev team is trying to move out Trace as a mechanic. You can see a lot of
Hmm.
we're gonna be seeing a lot of cards that you might be familiar with as like, man, that generally has a trace on it. Nice dog. But yeah, Data Raven, which if you look at this art, you might wonder what the hell this is. Please rotate your head and then notice the bird. Um, ice is one of the things about ice is that looking at the card straight on can be hard to decipher what the art is because ice is meant to be played sideways. So, you know,
Yep.
here is the dog.
It is kind of interesting how they have the text oriented a different way than the art.
Yes. Oh, well,
Not very typical in card games.
so yeah, a new version on Data Raven. Not as strong, but it still has the point you care about, which is end the run unless they take a tag.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think this is perfectly fine. It's a code gate now instead of a sentry, which I don't think it makes too much of a difference.
no, I don't think that changes much of it.
Maybe slightly cheaper to break for some factions, but
I think it's more.
generally about the same.
I think it's more fitting as a code gate because it's not aggressively.
Yeah, and it kind of has that sort of code gate thing of like, it sort of ends the run unless you do a thing.
Yeah.
Reality Plus.
Data Raven can give tags outside of a run, but to be real, if Data Raven's sub has fired, the runner has given up. Because
Yeah.
Data Raven can never fire if the runner chooses. That's the part about Data Raven that was always a bit about it is they can always choose the end the run here and then bounce. But yes, it does give them quicklessly tags. That's why I say it's a weaker sub as well, because this sub is not as strong as free.
Honestly though, like Trace 3 was really small, and I feel like it rarely came up where, I was like fighting to
Well,
beat that trace.
usually it was broken by the time you're running through it.
Yeah,
Or, yeah. Um,
but
Here we have a tag liking ident 4015 again.
yeah. This one's immediately evocative of sports metal, just the like gain 2 or draw 2 effect.
Yes.
But tags in theory should be or could be more plentiful than scoring or stealing points. So possibly this pays out more.
Yeah. The problem is that if you're a tag liker, you're competing with CTM, right? Like, are we still?
Yeah.
Is CTM still
CTM,
legal?
it's still legal,
Okay.
as well as sync, which is also a very strong in tagging
Like, I, I
faction.
I think I've come around to not thinking that CTM needs to be removed from the pool because it's too powerful. But the problem I have with it is that it basically anything that cares about tagging, like it's so hard to make a better ident.
Yeah,
Like especially with sync being an option as well.
yeah.
Um,
Well, CTM at least kind of occupies like a space between asset spam and tag punishment, so I think it kind
yes,
of has its own little niche.
this one
Like
is
you can still play NBN and tagging without going wide and doing the asset spam.
yeah.
You might not play CTM,
That
but
said, like $2 or 2 cards is super strong. We saw with the Jinteki one above, it was 1 credit for an action that could only happen once per every other turn. This could, but you can't happen anymore. But say you got paired up against, Lisa,
that'd be pretty fun.
that'd be pretty funny. You'd be making all the bank in the world. Ping is cool.
Ping
Uh,
is very cool.
Ping is super strong. When you res this ice during a run against this server, which was a really weird extra bit there, but uh, give the runner a
Yeah,
tag. So
it's so you can't use it like a C source if you find a way to res it outside of a run.
right, I'm trying to think of the way to. There's like 1 or 2 cards in
There's
the game that pull that
Surat
off.
City Grid is the one I think of,
Yeah,
but there's just weird cards. It's better written this way.
Ping has good flavor text of like
Getting closer.
0.6, 0.2. Oh, what? I'm sorry, what?
Ping. But yeah, no, just a very simple ice. Giving them a tag for, well, I say for free, but it's for 2 credits is very
Could
good,
be for free.
and you can get 2 credits back with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Overall,
yeah.
a very reasonable cost to give the runner a tag, I'd say, and you get a free, gear check piece of ice with it.
Yeah, that's the big thing here is that this is super cheap, and like you're gonna get this 2 refunded, maybe literally if you're here, but also like time wise, you're going to force the runner to take action against the tag.
Yep.
Um, Predictive planogram, which
Yeah.
is this blue cyber person and a red um
Aardvark? Rabbit? First I thought it was a rabbit, but the nose is not
yeah,
rabbit. So now I'm thinking of like Aardvark or
I don't know.
like Anteater, maybe? I don't
Anyway, for the best augmented reality shopping experience, please disable tracking protection.
know.
But yeah, you either get to, as we said, we talked about anonymous tip. This is anonymous tip. It's also Easy Mark or Beanstalk royalties. If they're tagged, do both, and that's a lot.
I think this is a very well designed card. Like it's
Yeah,
flexible without the tag, and with the tag it becomes quite good. And
yeah.
like that's all it really needs to do.
Even without the tag, I feel like I'm still happy with this card for being either digging or
Oh,
econ.
for sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh, Cherokee Starfish, welcome. Thanks for the raid. Public Trail, which is um, the art of predictive planogram, but we reversed.
Now you're running from the spooky
Now we're
numbers.
running from. This is a different take on C Source. C Source was two, same text here, and it had a tracer tag.
Yep.
This one is pay 8, so a lot more
It's
to
a
avoid.
it's a hefty price tag, but at least the runner knows what they need to have to beat this, you know?
Yeah,
Because like it used to be the C source play was to just get more money than the runner, and if you do that, then well, you just C source scorch and you win.
right,
But with this one, you know, if this was in the original core, that deck would have existed in the way that it did.
right. But now also tagging isn't that binary anymore. So
Yep. Yeah, costing 4 seems pretty hefty too, but you know, I mean, I guess when you play this, you probably know it's going to be a favorable result,
right,
so maybe it's
well
fine.
because you're either paying 4 for 8, or you're paying 4 for a tag, and then you're using that tag for some sort of advantage on your end.
Yeah.
So the decks that are going to be built around this are going to be trying to take as much advantage of this as possible.
Yep.
Um, so I want to show you the strongest card in Netrunner.
Good old Jackson.
There he is. You've got your choice of Jacksons. You've got your Jackson original. You've got your Jackson full art, and then you've got your Jackson. Yes, good. Yes. Jackson Howard, I feel I can say this with no contest, is the strongest card to exist in Netrunner.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Because it planogram, for those who do not know, is a set layout of her product or event designed by a corporation that individual stores would follow. So Jackson was click draw 2, remove Jackson from the game, shuffle 3 cards from archives and R&D. This was a card that specifically, like when it came out, changed the balance of the literal way the game works so that the corp could actually deal with agenda flood. This is the first real way for the corp to deal with that. They can
Yep.
overdraw, discard their agendas, shuffle away Jackson, boom.
Yep.
You fixed your hand because you drew 4 cards. It has 1 influence cost. It was the most ubiquitous card in Netrunner. It was used in combo decks. It was used in
Honestly, yeah, I think once it was printed, it was basically a 3x in every corp for years.
forever. Anyway,
Yeah.
Spin Doctor. When you res this asset, draw 2 cards. Remove this asset from the game. Shuffle 2 cards from archives and R&D. This is not Jackson Howard. This is the most powerful Jackson Howard like we've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It keeps and in some ways it's better. It doesn't, for instance, cost you clicks to draw. But you can't use it to overdraw digging wise.
Yep. But you can draw during the runner's turn, which is interesting.
If you want a 7-card hand to maybe hide more things in HQ. But it
Mm-hmm.
also has the recursion bit. Only 2 instead of 3. But
Yeah.
still, this is. So, what happened when Jackson was printed was that Jackson became the most ubiquitous, everybody played way of like fixing agenda flood. They tried for years to print alternatives to Jackson, The problem was Jackson was 1 influence, 0 cost, draw power, recursion. Nothing could be stronger than Jackson Howard at being Jackson Howard.
Yeah.
So, um, this is a really interesting. When I saw this card, I went, "Oh shit," because like it tells me that like they want the power level of this sort of recursion to be extant, to be real, to be playable. Uh, and like that's nice to have because when you don't have an effect like that, sometimes you draw 4 agendas and the game ends.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
mulligans
I
don't always
think
work.
this card existing definitely raises the power level of all corps. Just
Yeah,
having access to this.
I wonder. I don't think it'll be as ubiquitous. I don't think anything can be Jackson Howard, but
No. Yeah. I
I
don't think it'll be as ubiquitous. There are other options that compare to it
yes,
relatively okay. I mean, Sprint is pretty close to this card, I think.
Sprint comes to mind when I'm looking at this as well. Yeah. So yeah,
But it's probably going to see pretty good play.
tomorrow's headline. It is the 3-2 unique here. Scored or stolen. Tag the runner.
Yeah.
A plus.
Pretty
You know,
solid.
great, cool.
Yeah.
Works when they steal it. Works when you score it. Uh, a tag, as we've seen, is like a thing that your cards might care about, but also like the runner can pay 2 and a click to remove a tag, and that is an economic loss for them.
Yep.
You know,
It's kind of interesting. It's a 3-2 agenda, which is very efficient. In fact, it's the most efficient agendas that exist.
yes,
And yet it's only really does tagging, which is typically something you only care about if you're not trying to score very efficiently, you know.
right. But it even works on because it works on steel too. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, I don't.
Yep. So it's a little trap. You can slow the runner down or catch him off guard and do stuff. It's pretty good.
And like, there's a lot of reasons why you would want your opponent tagged. Things like QP, QPM,
Quantum predictive kitty.
Quantum Predictive Kitty. Ooh, there's a different one here.
Oh, nice. Pretty red.
But yeah, like very good on that one. All right. Yeah, we're definitely gonna take 2 hours just talking about cards. That's sweet.
Yeah, we're not even to the runner stuff yet.
Hell yeah. Well, anyway. Hedge fund. When I say Jackson Howard is the most ubiquitous card in Netrunner,
Yeah, it's not true.
this is the card that says you're wrong, Jones. Like it's actually
This is actually the most ubiquitous card in Netrunner, which
Mhm.
honestly though, like it's kind of fine. Like it's good to have just this sort of card that everyone's playing.
I
It kind of
love
sets the bar, you know.
I love the existence of hedge fund and sure gamble, and I love
Yeah.
that they're mirrors. I love that that is balanced, and that's like
Yeah.
this is the line, and everything is on this line. Like, and that's what you expect from a card. 5 is your starting, cash total. Perfect.
Mhm.
So and also you can tell hedge fund is ubiquitous because art. Oh yeah, on here I can click on a card and it tells me what it's legal in and
Oh,
where it's
nice.
from and uh another hedge fund. We've got our hedge
Yeah.
funds.
Yep.
We don't have the original hedge fund, the one that's like noun.
Oh, yeah. They
Where
must have replaced it with a Nisei one.
if I pull up head, yeah, there it is. Hedge fund noun and a genius device by which the rich get richer. Well, every other poor SOB is losing a shirt. Who's
Yeah,
counting?
Anarch's Dictionary volume. Who's counting?
Yep.
Love it.
But yeah, I love that hedge fund and sure gamble exist as mirrors and are also played in every single deck.
Yeah, it's a cool like crossover point between the two sides that normally don't interact
Yeah,
in
you
in that way.
you see a couple others like in the sense that like this here predictive
Yep,
pentagram is Diesel
as a mirror of Diesel
or
or Easy Mark.
Easy Mark, but
Yep.
that's about it. Like
Yeah, there's no spin doctor for runner. There's no off-world office. Yep.
yeah, it's rare that we have anything that's close to that. All right, off-world office, 4-2, 4-2s. When you're playing a 4-2, you're playing it for the effect. You're not playing it for the stat line. There
Mhm.
are a lot of different 4-2s. 4-2s are generally where the strong text agendas live.
Yeah.
And off-world office is a pretty good baseline one. Nearly a full refund. You're like more than a full refund, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
Well, debatably, because if you count the clicks you're spending to advance, you're spending 5 clicks and 4 credits
yeah,
to install and
that's why I
perform
went
advance.
from nearly to full to,
It's pretty close to a good refund. I mean, it's better than any other agenda is going to give you once you score it. So
yeah. So point of comparison, which is worth looking at, is that's not how you spell cyber. That's how you spell cyber. Cyberdeck Sandbox.
yep,
This is the biggest point of comparison. By the way, Cyberdeck Sandbox, we got this cool big whale,
a Darwin and a medium.
medium, and but
I think there was one more. I can't see it though.
but yeah. So but this is whenever you purge the first time, gain 4. When you score, purge, so you gain 4. So this is what you're kind of looking at comparatively.
Yep.
In that
The,
card,
the the other thing too is that if you have 2 cyber decks scored, you get 8.
you get 8.
So
Also,
I don't know. There's
purging, as we'll see soon, might be relevant.
hmm. Yep.
Um, the other orbital superiority.
Yeah, this is actually pretty cool, I think. So this reminds me of Private Security Force from the core set.
Hmm.
Except for this one feels much more inspired by Scorched Earth.
This is literally scorched earth, right? Like
Yeah, it's just Scorched Earth on a 4/2. I think it's pretty cool,
I do
and it's
love.
neutral, so you can play it in any faction.
We are we are firing at like a moon colony, like somewhere, right? Like we,
Yeah, right.
because like Earth's back there, so we're clearly on moon, and we are just firing 4 missiles at your house.
Yep, one for each meat damage.
One missile is 1 meat damage.
But it's got pretty good flavor text too.
Yeah. Uh, Again, like especially when we're looking at 4 twos in neutral, this is like going to be our baseline because once we look at them in faction, we're going to be seeing more. We aren't going to see any in this set, but like any of the ones that exist before this have like strong effects, and neutral ones by kind of necessity aren't going to be as strong as like an in plan one, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, Palisade. This is so wall of static is 3/3 and the run. This is 3/2 or 3/4 depending on where it's at.
Yep.
No,
Honestly, pretty boring. It's just a reprint of Wall
it's
Static.
it's neutral. It exists. Great.
Yep.
Neat. You're probably not playing it because again, like for the most part, if you're playing neutral ice, it's going to be like really small gear checky stuff.
Yeah.
I am including vanilla to make you get a barrier breaker.
Yep. This is probably a card that's included in like teaching decks or for
Yeah.
draft formats or something.
Here's some big money. This one is
The regolith. What even is a regolith? I want to Google that.
that is a word. Yeah,
According to Wikipedia, it's a blanket of unconsolidated, loose, heterogeneous, superficial deposits covering solid rock. Okay.
yeah.
That I know some of those words. Yeah. Combines 2 Greek words, regos meaning blanket and lithos meaning rock. Okay. All right. I can accept that.
So, uh, this reminds me heavily of like it reminds me of some older money making bits, but this is big money, like big
Yeah,
money,
this
big
is
prizes.
quite good, I think. Click for 3 is pretty solid. It's not clickless econ, which I think it's harder for the corp to spend their clicks on a card like this because they only have 3 per turn.
Right. In order for the corp to want this, they are probably playing something that is big money. It is big money, big prizes. They need cash, and they need it's my money and I need it now. Like
Yep.
because
Um,
it reminds me of Melange. That's
right. I
that's
was gonna say it can do a pretty good impression of Melange Mining Corp.
that's you
But you
do
get to break it up.
can do like a
Is you
better like impression
Yeah,
in a lot of
yeah. You can
instances.
do click for 6 or triple click for 9, which is good.
Okay, yeah, moon dust, which makes sense if we're doing H3 extraction on the lunar surface. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh
I'm probably mining the same stuff that the Melange was anyways.
yeah. So it is like I like this as a option, especially like as a neutral option. Like again, neutral options are going to be your baseline, right?
Yeah.
So
And this card is much better than a lot of the neutral Corpicon that FFG printed
generally,
up until like up until like Moombot
yeah.
or later even.
Send a message. When this agenda scored or stolen? Okay, so we've talked about we talked about 4-2s, we talked about 3-2s. 5-3s are the realm of like big money like glacier decks. They
Yeah.
generally to be playable, you need a defensive line of text on a 5-3.
Yeah.
Um,
Because like 4-2s, even though it seems pretty close, when you go to score a 4-2, the first turn you spend, you either install and advance it once, and then you have one extra click to do a thing. And then, assuming the runner doesn't steal it, you can then score the next turn. Whereas a 5-3, you have to install, advance, and advance, meaning you have no clicks left over
you need
to
to spend
even
two
try to
full
score it on your
turns.
following turn.
Yeah. Also, a 4-2 is stolen. The opponent needs to steal 4 2-point agendas to win the game.
Hmm.
The moment a 3-point agenda is stolen, that drops to 3 agenda steals generally.
Yeah.
Unless there's some deck building that you're doing that includes 1-pointers, things like that. But for the most part, the moment a 3-pointer is stolen, like, oh boy, that shifts the math.
Yep. But
So,
also, playing more 5-3s in your deck means you get to play overall less agenda cards, which can
yes.
sometimes be good.
So take the 40 card decks we're looking at. These are 18-point min. That's 5-3s.
Yep. Which is quite low. There's 6 agendas in a 44 card deck. The runner's got low odds of hitting any points.
So yeah, when scored or stolen, you may res 1 piece of ice, ignoring all. Hold on, is this?
Yeah, it's an
Ha.
upgrade. Yeah.
Okay. Priority requisition is notable for being one of the very few cards in Netrunner that is an exact reprint of an original Netrunner card, like flat. Like
That's right. Yeah.
it's just priority rec. It's a 5-3. It reses a piece of ice.
Yep.
like, so we took priority rec and we've upgraded it because priority rec was only ever playable for the first 3 months of Netrunner's existence when you had to play it.
Yeah. Pretty
Um,
much.
was never so.
Send a message. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Being able to res ice when the runner scores is good because usually they only score because your defenses were weak.
Yeah, it is possible you could include this as your second 5-3. Not certain, but it depends on what you end up
Yeah,
doing.
it's probably not going to compete against a lot of in-faction 5-3s, but you never know. Maybe you got some really spicy ice you want to res.
3-1s. When you're playing a 3-1, you extremely are playing it for the text. It's easy to score a 3-1. They're not high impact for your points either side. So the ability is what you're here for. This one is draw 2 +2 hand size. +2 hand size is pretty nice because it
Yeah.
makes HQ harder to beat down.
Yep.
7-card hand instead of 5.
Yeah, I think this is a very reasonable card. I think the hardest part with 3-1s is just finding deck slots for
Yeah.
them.
There are very, very, very few 3-1s that are like high, like strong enough to include.
Hmm.
House of Knives, Quantum Entanglement,
License acquisition.
yeah, License Acquisition, and God, is that Hyperloop
I
if you're
mean, like
playing?
QPM, Hyperloop could be.
Yeah, like it's hard. These need to be strong because one points.
Yeah.
Because again, this dilutes your deck really. Uh, text on an agenda is only active if you score it. So,
Or if it says like
or if
when
it
accessed
says
or when stolen or
so,
yeah.
like the runner doesn't get the benefit of an agenda if it is stolen, unless it specifically calls out that the runner gets a benefit for doing so.
Yeah.
So no, if you do this does not have a drawback. But yeah, so uh, now this is actually a small one I like.
Yeah, I think Tithe is fine.
Um, because this is more of a like small gear checky bit. Uh, it's not gonna be like it doesn't do much. It's cheap to play. You get the refund, you do net damage. It's almost ignorable, but it's you know, there is a reason you might be just including tiny defensive structures.
Yeah, and 2 subs on a 1 strength ice. I mean,
It's
like
not,
that's a pretty good cost to benefit
yeah,
ratio, and it's barely even worth breaking in the first place.
it's not gear checking because it doesn't end the run, but it
Yeah.
is annoying.
It's more of a deterrent against repeated runs.
Yeah,
Put it on a central or some such.
always
Now,
want,
white space, I think, is actually a pretty decent gear check, guys.
always want to get in this game. The sheer amount of cards in the game sort of scare me off. I mean, right now the card pool, like, I would, if you wanted to start somewhere, starting with like the system update, like the current core set, is a really good place to start.
Absolutely.
We're looking at this is a new release, System Gateway, and just kind of going over it because I wanted to spend time talking with
Yeah.
Dakota about these because honestly, we haven't even gotten a chance to talk about a lot of these cards even between us. We just sort of have looked at them. So
Yep. And even more so, System Gateway is intended to be like the new player experience. So
yes,
absolutely start here if you're looking to start playing.
yeah. When you actually buy this, it comes with little starter decks.
Yep.
The built out of these for uh for both these, and also they're included in the if I go to deck builder, runner starter deck, corp starter deck, runner booster deck, which is with additional cards, so that you like these are these like learning decks, and then these are like legit deck, like a little more like real, like they're actually at 44 with real size, 40 with real size. Um, Meant to be like little teachy bits to learn how to play with just a very hey, it's so it's a very good place to start.
Yeah.
As you might expect, a dead game does have to worry about acquisition pretty heavily. It's something you gotta.
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest difficult thing to figure out is how do we market this game if there's no one actually spending money on ads or
Yeah,
whatever. However you sell a card game in the first place.
but yeah, you were talking about white space though, and how it
Yeah,
is a
so white
type
space
of
is pretty cool, right? Like lose $3 on face check is pretty harsh. And then if that first sub fires, I feel like a second sub has a pretty good chance of also firing.
the space left intentionally blank.
And also the flavor text is great.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, just a little gear check. It doesn't hard end the run, so it doesn't necessarily require a decoder to get past it. They can just have enough money.
but at the same
But
time, like one of the things that's funny about it is that this loses three is going to be more than any decoder cost to break this
yeah, it's true.
zero strength. Like the so
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think this is good. Two to res, your strength. I mean, yeah, pretty fair
yeah,
overall.
a lot of these are going to be made for like hey, we want these kind of generic cards to be able to have a baseline for people to understand.
Yep.
All right, Wayland. Uh,
Above the law. I think this is a cool one.
this one's scary because when you so 3-2 limit one score it trash an installed resource. Uh, in general, trashing your stuff requires your input in some way, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Usually to do this, you have to land a tag and then spend 2 credits in a click to trash something.
right. Um, like so obviously it hits resource, so it's not. It is still stuff that is the most fragile out of the runner
Hmm.
stuff, but it it is like powerful because it can be unexpected. Like I'm not tagged and I still lost my like oh shit my procon.
Yeah.
So
Um, I, although it seems like nowadays there's less reliance on the like big resource econ cards.
correct.
You know,
The one I think the most of is class act, but who cares if I got my class act
yeah,
killed,
like
right?
class
Like
act isn't a big deal to lose. Limited accounts isn't a big deal to lose. Daily cast isn't huge, right? Like there's just a lot of cards that are like, eh.
yeah, like
Sure, I
worse.
lost some money,
The
but
most annoying case is you killed my Aesops and I don't have a backup, right? Like
yeah, that's probably the biggest one.
so. But still, again, 3-2. You would play. You a lot of times will play this without the text, and the
Hmm.
text is strong. So,
Yep, pretty
uh,
good.
Ballista
Ballista.
here. Ballista here is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very straightforward. 4 strength sentry that just has a either trash a program or end the run, but the flexibility is pretty nice on this.
Yep. And mind you, this is corpse choice because it's on the subroutine.
Yes.
So if the runner lets it resolve, the corp chooses to trash program or end the run.
Yeah, and generally you are going to like 99% of the time choose that trash program if you're able to.
Yeah, unless this is like you trying to score out an agenda or something, you're probably going to take the opportunity to
But
break a
the
breaker.
the interesting thing about it is that like so a lot of the time if we have a piece of ice like this that is like trashing program something like that, one of the like funniest defenses as the runner, and I play criminals, so this happens all the goddamn time, is okay, cool, trash my programs. I didn't have any, and I never was.
You're right.
Like,
Programs.
like cool,
Who's
like
using
I'm
programs?
sorry, what's a program? I've never heard of that one.
Uh,
I
yep.
but this one I can't just plant my face through it.
Yeah,
It doesn't
it
work.
actually says
So
no. If you want to get through, you're going to have to break it at some point,
yeah,
which I think is pretty cool.
it is 4 to break with Bugalter. Again, important noting points with sentries
Yep.
is their Bugalter break points. 4 to break and you get a 2 refund.
Yeah, it's not overly taxing, but it's cheap enough to where you can, try to rush with it or something.
Yeah. Clearinghouse. So I talked earlier when we were looking at the not Project Junebug about the like kind of trio of cards you needed as a threat if you're going to be doing traps. This is the third piece. This is the like Ronin, but it's in Wayland, I guess.
Yep.
Um, you can advance this asset when your turn begins. You may trash this to deal 1 meat damage for each hosted advancement counter. So install advance. They don't run it. You can res it and do 2 damage.
hmm
It's you can also you can defend it and then like over advance it, and go for a kill, right? Say you're like you have like a scoring server and your opponent doesn't have the way in. They just had to break themselves to maybe get into it. What if this is your answer? Like
Right.
I will
Yeah,
kill you.
I think this is pretty cool, and it's interesting too because you can set up multiples as well to try to
Yeah.
you know, you can have two of these going with like two counters on each, and then res them both and deal 4, and maybe you have one other card in hand to finish them off or something like that.
It also is a advanceable asset. Um, like which does matter in Wayland because you could pull the counters off of it to score with dedication.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to be using this for that purpose, but it is a possible idea. It
Yeah.
has the possibility of reading like a higher point agenda. The problem is like Wayland is the only faction that gets those effectively. It has government
Government
takeover.
takeover.
It has the nine
Yeah.
six. Uh, Boy howdy does nobody play those. Like that bluff almost because like if your 9/6 gets stolen, wow, you're fucked.
Well, and it's like, are you really bluffing at that point? Because whether or not it's a takeover or this card, you still want to run it as a runner
Yeah,
if it's getting up there. So I don't know.
and then it's the June bug and you die.
Right? Yeah, and like honestly, I think the biggest thing with clearinghouse is like sort of the interplay with that and the advanceable traps
Right.
of like, making the runner guess whether or not it's gonna kill them if they run or kill them if they don't run.
So, uh, government subsidy is a effective reprint.
Mm-hmm.
Restructure was a very early
Yeah,
transaction. This
spin
was
cycle. So
so
second one.
yeah. This is you might see this and think, oh wow, like that's sort of like that's more than hedge fund. It's +5 instead of +4. Restructure was not played anywhere near as much.
Yep.
But it was played. It was played in like very hefty decks that wanted to get up to high numbers. Wayland tended to be a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Sun style stuff would be
Yeah.
a good example. And so just giving this to Wayland, still one influence, if you want it out, makes sense.
Yep.
You
I
know,
really like this card. I think it just makes sense. All of it.
yep. Uh, Malapert Data Vault. Whenever you score an agenda from this server, uh, you can Search RD for a non-agenda card. Reveal it at HQ.
Yeah, this card is pretty interesting.
Oof.
Very, very
Oof.
powerful. So tutoring for cards is one of Wayland's like faction mechanics,
Yes.
I guess.
They get tutoring as one of their like they have like big money tutoring. They're generally the biggest fuck off ice.
Yeah,
Like
advanceable ice,
advan- and advanceable stuff.
meat damage,
So,
some tagging.
but like this tutor, you score out of your server and you go grab. You can't go grab the. They specifically say non-agenda, so it can't be, toot toot Astro Train.
Yep.
But it can be. I'm gonna go grab a biotic. I'm gonna go
You
grab.
can go grab a neurospike.
Ooh, go tutor the neurospike as your. Of course. Uh, it's a strong effect.
Yeah,
It
it's a
basically
one
feels
four
like
upgrade, so like pretty reasonable
it
cost.
feels like something you'd be playing in like a. If you're playing it, it's like Titan Fast Advance, right?
Yeah. The only thing is that it seems a little bit like a win more
Well,
card, possibly.
yeah.
Like it only does anything if you're already winning a little bit, but
I guess I say Titan Fast Advance, but you're not
Titan doesn't exist
Titan.
anymore.
Well, that's an example, not a like. Oh, I should play Titan Fast Advance. You can't. That like, um, we're not doing that anymore. So, Pharaohs, Pharaohs. So God, Wayland has advanceable ice, and there have been 16 different attempts at trying to make advanceable ice like good, right?
Yeah.
The first 6 were bad, and like we're finally at the point where like we actually have real advanceable ice that you might actually choose to advance.
Well, like the only ones that get played right now are ones that don't even get
Don't
advanced anyways.
right. You don't advance Mazel or
Yeah, Mausolus and
Mazel
Hortum are the ones
Hortum.
I'm thinking of.
You don't advance those like almost ever. I
Yep.
have seen like a Hortum advanced because I think
Yeah.
I think it gains like can't be broke by AI or
Yep.
something
Yep.
like that. And
Which is quite good in certain cases.
this one is +5 strength on 3 advancement, which makes it 9 to break with you know
Yeah, I mean a 7-10 barrier is massive. Like
uh the
that's like on the order of like curtain wall.
the problem is how much time and resources it takes to triple advance in ice.
Right.
That
That's basically
is
an entire turn plus 3 credits just to
yeah,
get 5 strength on your ice.
yeah, like which is why
Which, yeah, there's an indent here, which we could just get to now since we're talking about advancing.
yeah. Uh
Um,
there have been multiple attempts at this as well. There
yeah,
was the
I think this is
recurring
the best one so far by a large margin.
agreed. There was the recurring credit.
Yeah, because we built it was pretty poop. Never saw play.
Mhm.
But this one is more flexible too, because it triggers on advancing ice, advancing agendas, advancing traps. So like, there's a lot of things you can do with this one. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like even like it can be like click for credit just
Yeah,
by
yeah,
advancing.
it's tempo positive to just do the thing that you want to do. So
Yep.
yeah, seems good.
Also 4015 running
Yep.
theme in these.
Yeah, every ident in System Gateway is a 4015.
All right. Retribution, play if the runner's tagged, trash a program or hardware. Of note, if we're going down the list of like most trashable to least trashable, it's like resource then program, then a large gap, and then hardware.
Yeah, hardware is pretty hard to hit.
Hardware tends to be not easy to hit, and this can do that. Your console blowing up really sucks.
Yeah.
Um,
I think this is a pretty cool card. It's 1 influence, 1 cost, so like pretty cheap to splash and to play.
yep.
Um, it's a little bit like reactive, like even for a tagging plan. Like, sure you get to trash some of their stuff, but what if they don't have anything you actually want to trash, or
Right. Though,
what if they can just reinstall it?
yeah, the hope
But
is like they reinstall it and it costs them 3 in a card to reinstall their
yeah,
console.
but I don't know. It has some potential.
Oh my god, we're finally out of.
So yeah, that's all the corp cards. Nope.
All right, runner. We only have 3 factions in here. There's no Adam. There's no Sunny. There's no
Apex.
Apex. But there's 9 per.
Yeah.
You cannot play like there are, like, if I go over to the deck builder in here, there are like these idents. These are not real cards.
Yeah, they're meant for teaching, I suppose,
Yeah,
is the main purpose.
these are like, you cannot play a neutral. You know, there is no such thing as a neutral vanilla ident.
Yeah.
In constructed, obviously, like, here, but
I actually wonder how that's like coded into the rules because there's nothing on the card that says it's not eligible for constructed play.
yeah.
There's got to be something like somewhere in the
Yep.
rules documents that say can't play it.
All right. Botulus. Uh, this
Bachelus
is
is cool.
this is a, like, okay, we've had a number of different styles of this card in the past. Um, Knight is one that I remember of this type, right?
Yeah, yeah,
This is the choose an ice. That ice is cracked in some way. Maybe it's parasite. Um, Maybe there was a draft format that had 30 infinite and such, but I can count on one hand the number of times I've ever played draft, and it's zero.
same. I've always
uh,
wanted to try it though, but
the
I've never had enough people to
the
do it.
problem with drafting is that in a game where you purchased cards, um, like, you would pay $25 to draft, and you would receive nothing
Yeah, because everyone already has a full set
because you already have a full
thanks to
play set
the
of all your cards.
LCG style. Yeah,
So the only time anybody ever drafted was like a cube draft style thing, which I know people have gotten enjoyment out of. I just have never had a group that had a
yeah,
cube around. But I remember when those draft packs came out, and it was just like, wait, what's the whole point of this? And the answer was nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Would you like to spend $25 on a Sand City Grid? um, but yeah, Botchel. So, like, again, Knight is one that I think of a lot. Uh, God, good old Kaisa.
Kaisa.
Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Knight's cool. It also is a little bit like Parasite.
yes,
Um, which is what it reminds me of too, but
yep,
less less painful than Parasite. Like at least this doesn't ever trash the ice. It just lets you get through it sometimes.
yep. So,
But it's pretty good though. I mean, there's no strength requirement on it, so you can break literally any size of ice. It's just you got to break each subroutine once per counter.
yep, and you might have other cards that help out with the counters, as we'll see in um, later cards. If we take a look at, like, this icebreaker here, you see how it says hosted virus counter break. If it says interface, that means it has to be on strength.
Yeah.
That's a new thing here. Uh, Buzzsaw here is a almost fixed strength breaker. Like,
Yeah. It's kind of cool, I think.
um,
It's very expensive to pump, so you probably don't plan to use the pump ability ever if you can help it.
right. The idea is you want to break low strength code gates very cheaply,
Yeah.
one for
And
two subs.
3 base strength is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's pretty decent, right?
I'm trying to think. Big code gates, you're gonna have problems with. WoW never run into a toll booth style thing, but, like,
Yeah,
um,
Tollbooth sucks. You probably won't be breaking a lot of slot machines with it.
that's the other one. That's a just, oh boy, that's not where you want to be.
Slot machine and what's the Jinteki one? Engram Flush. Both 5 strength code gates
There it
that
is.
and
There's
yeah, and
Engram
DNA
Flush.
Tracker. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Engram Flush.
so they are both this deck. Yeah, really interesting. I like this as a almost like a. It's not quite a Yogg level thing because it's not zero, but it's a
Is
decoder for killing low decoders.
is Anarch supposed to be better at breaking code gates or sentries? 'Cause
So
I feel like they're the barrier
barriers.
breaker
There.
faction. Like
So
that's their preference.
the way it goes is that in general, it is Anarch has the best barrier breaker options. Um, Shaper has the best code gate breaking options, and Criminal has the best sentry breaking options. This has not always been true throughout all of Netrunner, but it has been generally true
Mhm.
throughout Netrunner. The idea is like Corroder is the most efficient barrier breaker, and Paperclip became that afterwards.
Yep.
Um, and like uh, uh, in
Yeah,
Criminal,
like
you had a lot of different ones, but like Bugalter's the newest one, but Femme Fatale and Fairy
Fairy.
and
Yeah.
Bits were
Fairy's
all,
the one where it's like, whew. Yeah.
and then um, Gordian Blade. So the problem, the reason I say not always is because like Yogg plus Data Sucker was way better at breaking.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
Shaper these days has like Ngolo level stuff, you know,
Yep.
like
And some pretty good ones in this set as well.
yep. So
But yeah, I think Buzzsaw's fine. It's only one influence, but I doubt you splash it.
yeah, and we're seeing again like Cleaver is a barrier breaker, and that's why it's cheaper on its front here.
Yeah.
Like it's the exact same card, 3
Yep.
strength, but because this faction is better at barrier breaking, it is -1 cost, -1 cost. So
Yeah. And Cleaver, I think, stands up pretty well to a lot of fractors, even the scary ones like Paperclip and because like three, I still think three base strength is a pretty big deal, and I think that there are going to be decks that are going to have to use that
the
as a leverage point for the corp, like for like rush decks that are probably
yeah,
playing small ice anyways.
the problem is that it is only better than Paperclip against a multi-sub 3 or less strength ice.
Yeah,
Um, and obviously, it doesn't have Paperclip's busted line of text, which is clicklessly install from the graveyard.
yeah,
But
yeah. That's a big deal.
like, there is a small issue right now with the most efficient of the breakers being too efficient.
Yeah,
Paperclip just stands out as just over the edge. It installs from the heap if it's in there. But this is better in certain situations for like gear check ice or smaller bits like this. It breaks Eli the same cost, right? Like 3 to break
yeah,
Eli versus 3 to break Eli. Yeah,
yep.
things like that. Uh, Carnivore uh, can trash anything. It basically gives you like an auto imp.
Yeah, so being able to trash cards that you normally can't is pretty powerful for the runner.
Yeah,
It lets you target the corp's game plan in ways that they might not be expecting you to target. Like for example, you can go for their, tag punishment cards in their hand that don't normally have trash costs, or even like agendas that would normally hurt you to steal. You can just trash and pick it up later.
yeah, or ice that they haven't gotten to play. You can just destroy their defenses before they come down. You know,
Mm-hmm.
cost is reasonably hefty, but Anarch is very good at refreshing that hand.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
all they you know uh I don't know if this is if you're playing this over like imp plus the opportunity cost of your console.
Yeah,
That's the
I
hardest
think that's
part.
a hard choice. You,
Like
you only get to have one console as a runner, which it
yeah,
says on the card, and eh,
like
there are some really, really strong ones that you have
when
as
you're
options.
building is this okay, this is Renee's. It even has Renee on the okay. Uh
Hmm.
a couple things about consoles. Consoles are always tied to a runner as far as like thematically.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about their design is that they're like, yeah, this is meant to be for a runner. We'll quick pull up in a moment here. Might as well. Uh, Renee here. First time you trash a card, gain 1 and draw. So get almost a full refund on the trash. Um,
Yeah, I think it's like pretty reasonable in his deck. Like you're
yeah,
only losing one card net and you're getting a buck. Like, yeah, seems
yeah.
fine.
But like the trick is like imp exists. It's like oh boy, like
Imp is quite good.
because imp is a 2 cost program that gets 2 virus counters or 3 if you or 4 if you
Cookbook, yeah.
yeah but so like the big thing with consoles is always the opportunity cost because you could only really play one. Is this better than what's Anarch's base console these days?
Um, Patchwork or Knobkery, I think, is actually
Probably, yeah.
quite popular.
Patchwork is you can turn cards in your hand into dark writs,
Yeah.
like trash cards with -2 a cost. Um, anyway, we have a ton of virus stuff in this. We have the botulus before. Cookbook is when you install a virus, place a virus counter on it, so your viruses start already moving.
Yeah, kind
Um,
of a reprint of the original Anarch console, which was Grimoire,
not
which was a
nostalgia.
very good console.
Grimoire was, well, for one, the 2 mem on Grimoire was really big.
Yep,
For
two mem on a 3 cost console, and the added virus counter, also very good.
yeah, but yeah, Grimoire War. Uh, yeah, Parasite was the thing the virus played for the longest time of like, oh, I want an extra counter on this to get it already started.
Yeah.
Um, so having a 1 cost card that is the push ability from it is really good. And right now, from my understanding, one of the more popular decks that has come out of this set of cards, along with
Oh
some other
yeah.
bits. Fermenter here, for instance, install this program. When you install this, and when your turn begins, place a virus counter on it. Trash, gain 2 for each hosted virus counter. Well, if you play this and you have Cookbook, then it's worth 4 base, and it gains 2 every turn to trash. But you can't wait too long on it because the corp can always purge for their
Mhm.
full round action.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
that's why attention to a cook.
It's pretty interesting too, because like purging is not a cheap ability for the corp usually.
It's
So
full round
even
action.
just like pressuring them to want to purge can be good.
Uh,
But
I don't think I have much to say about Leech because this is a reprint of Data Sucker with meaning very, very tiny text differences.
yeah, it's basically just a reprint of
Uh,
Data Sucker.
it
There's
technically work. No, it technically works against Archangel. I think that's the difference.
yep.
Yeah. Um, it's Data Sucker. Data Sucker is a known quantity. Very strong. I was surprised they kept the 1 influence on this.
Yeah, same.
So, uh, but yeah, Renee. Uh, I think Renee's like an interesting like the idea of the Anarch runner who likes trashing cards is one we've had like a couple times. Wizard is the obvious
Hmm.
one, but Edward as well,
Edward and Freedom.
and Freedom also. Yes, Freedom I think can trash for remove virus counters.
Yeah, it remove virus counters equal to the cost of the card.
Yeah, so uh, like this is space we've had, but like gain 1, draw 1 is a pretty hefty plus. And if you're fighting against like an asset heavy deck, Renee's gonna be in a happy place, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So,
Um, and as a 40-15 runner, like having that extra draw goes even further. You see even more of your deck.
yep.
So
And
yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
then our last bit, uh, we go to
Wildcat.
we go to Wildcat Strike. Uh,
I think this card is deceptively good. It's I think most of the time the corp will choose the credits, in which case it's just another sure gamble, which is great. Um, I suppose there are cases where you might get the 4 cards, but
I think
I don't know.
I think the big thing with this card is that you need to be like in a you don't want to leave this as like your last econ before a run, right? You want to be playing this early.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
The less info the corp has about your plans, the more effectively their choice works out in your favor.
yeah, this is one of the cards I talked about when we were talking about prepaid as like a powerful prepaid option.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's only 1 influence too, which is very very splashable.
yeah, so I like the card. You just have to know not to like you can't rely on this for the turn, right? Like
Yeah,
if you're going for money on the turn, there's a event we'll see a little later that you should be playing instead, right? Like,
yeah, and I think you generally want to play this towards the front, not only just for the hidden information, but just so you have clicks left to be able to play cards if you do end up getting handed 4 cards.
Right. You play this last click and they go,
I'm
ha.
just like, sure, yeah, draw 4, discard 4.
Yeah.
Cool.
Carmen is a really interesting card that has the problem of Bugalter exists. That's literally the problem with this card.
It's true.
Carmen is slightly better at. Yeah, it also makes sense next to the carnivore, like giving them cards might be a bad thing as well. You know, like,
Yeah.
Oops. Carmen here, 5 or 3 if you've made a successful run on the turn. And then it's, again, as we've noted, sentry breaking is the specialty of criminal. So they get a really cheap strength up, even cheaper than 1/1. And they get a 1/1 break. The problem is, in a lot of instances, Bugalter's still going to be more effective unless you're either fighting A, really top end, or B, repeated running. That said, still a very, like, you have to ask that question.
Yeah.
Thanks, Monda Greensleeves. Hope you enjoy this on the VOD. But yeah, so like, I really like the card. I even like, again, it's cheaper if you've made a run, and especially
Yeah, I think that's a really cool space of just like programs that want you to run before they even get you the like little benefit,
yep.
which is cool.
Yeah.
They probably could have done something more interesting too. It'd be interesting if it was like cost 2 less per ice you've broken this turn or something.
Yeah,
But
I'm pretty happy with the card. The only problem it has is the existence of it's like the paperclip problem, right? It's
yeah, and that's just a problem with like icebreakers in general. I think is that
there will always be a best, right? There will
yeah,
always be the most efficient, and
yeah, and like ideally certain ones will have certain niches where they're more efficient, but like in the case of Bugalter, it's so efficient that it's really hard to make a card that's better than it without just being broken.
yeah. So this one is being better on different breakpoints. You know, a 5, for instance, is going to be this one's really big breakpoint because it's 2. So this one costs 2 to get to 5 strength, whereas Bugalter's 4 to get to 5 strength.
Yep.
So that breakpoint is really good. But like
But Bugalter also pays you back $2, so
right, once per turn. So
yeah.
it's good on repeated runs.
Yeah. So if you break 2 5-strength sentries with Carmen, you're breaking even with Bugalter at that
Right.
point.
But what it means is that if your opponent's tech to try to beat like Bugalter by double stacking sentries or something like that,
Yeah.
this is an option. And as we'll see, there's another card below that makes it even more something that you might just include a one of in a deck here. Docklands Pass. This card looks familiar. First time you breach HQ, access 1 additional card. HQ interface and R&D interface were very early cards in the game that were hardware that let you access additional cards. R&D interface was played more than HQI, but this one still saw some play.
Yeah, it was played pretty decently up until Honor and Profit, I think, when Legwork was
Legwork.
printed.
The thing that is really nice about Docklands is one thing to note. I don't think I've mentioned this. The little dot, unique. You can't control more than one of those.
Yep.
So you can't stack this. That's why it's 2. But that's really goddamn cheap. And like you have this out with like Legwork still existing, full access to your hand whenever on.
Yeah, I mean, for the effect it gives you 2 credits is very, very reasonable.
It's also technically different in a couple ways. Number one, it says first time. But like when you're accessing HQ, it's usually 1 big run to check the whole land, and 2, it doesn't. It's not like when you access cards from HQ, access +1, which was like, if you ever had did you ever have to play against the like gang sign HQI decks?
Yep, I think I had 1 or 2 games
that
against
were just like they never ran. They just waited for you and then accessed your entire hand the moment you scored.
Yeah.
And like, so you'd score an agenda, and then they'd go, "Cool, access your entire hand, runless." And you're like, "I'm sorry." Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a card that will see a lot of play in various criminals.
Yeah. and pretty cheap to pull. Uh,
Hmm.
Marjana, I like the art on Marjana.
Yeah, me too.
Um, this is uh, a extremely like again, it has a if you made a successful run, costs one less. So like but this is super cheap to install and a little more expensive on the use. However,
Yeah.
if this is active right here, this is incredibly efficient.
Oh yeah. It's very
Um,
good.
so, but you just need to get in somewhere first.
Yep.
But
Well, and if you're playing criminal, you're probably already planning to do that most turns, so
yeah,
not a huge cost.
right. And like if you're playing this as a backup barrier breaker, or something like that,
Yeah.
yeah, zero cost means it's a nothing to install.
Yep. I think this is a fine backup breaker for sure.
Yeah. This mutual favor is a card that's incredible. Uh, Zero cost. Search your stack for an icebreaker, reveal it. If you made a successful run, you may install it. If you don't, add it to your hand.
Yeah.
Special Order
So
was a card that was in core and reprinted a number of times and is just search for an icebreaker, add it to your grip, shuffle. Costs one. This didn't see as the game went on, it stopped seeing play pretty like over time. But
yeah.
even still, you would still see criminal lists playing it every once in a while. Taking this and power creeping it twice, specifically with the install clause, is very strong. It becomes almost
Hmm.
an SMC like level of cost, right?
Yeah.
So obviously it's a little bit more reactive. You can't put it into play and then like, oh, I'll tutor after. But it's a very good card, and I'm very excited to play Criminal with access to full tutor for my breakers and installing them. So
Yeah. No, just seems like a very decent card to play, to make sure that you get your rig out in time.
yeah,
Because there's definitely been plenty of games, especially as criminal, where you just don't draw your breakers. I mean,
yep.
there was that game at Worlds that Brad
Oh my
lost where
god,
he just could not find the breaker he needed. He
bottom
just,
third of his deck to find his
yeah,
O2 corroders. It's just
yep.
uh, Penny Shaver is the third Desperado
Yeah, Desperado version 3.
because like whenever you make successful run, place one on it, click, place one on it, then pull it all. That is like so that you get one extra is for your time you take. Um, Desperado was the like so in core set there were uh like three consoles, like one console in each faction.
Yep,
Grim,
we already saw the Anarch one, which
you know,
was the Grimoire.
God, this like how many people even remember
Shaper one?
the Shaper one? Because that
That was
Shaper one,
Toolbox, man.
yeah, but like who like playing this card was just like
It was not
no
played
no
very
thank
often.
no thank
Yeah,
you. Um,
yeah.
but the last of them,
Probably the best console ever
Desperado,
printed.
had the problem we talked about with breakers, where Desperado was so powerful, you didn't play any other console. So even now, we are still like looming over Desperado. Uh, our new console here, yeah, our new console here is extremely Desperado, but not.
Yeah, it's pretty close, honestly.
Yeah.
It's quite close.
So
But the fact that you have to invest a click to get the payout, I think makes a huge difference
Paragon is
in
the
the power level.
other Desperado. This one was in Rain and Reverie, if I remember
Yeah.
right.
So Paragon does a pretty good impression, but it only triggers once per turn.
Yeah, it's once per, but you get a scry.
Yeah.
So you have Desperado, the original. You have this one that's once per turn, but scry, and then you've got Penny Shaver, which is like multiple times in a turn, but you have to take time to pull the money off it. It's you know so red team. This is trying to make Temujin that isn't as busted.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Temujin that's not busted. It's honestly borderline playable even. Like it's kind of not great. It's not
That
bad,
I
but it's
know
not great.
that's my actual problem with it is I do not like click to run. I want to be able to run event on there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Criminals get a lot of their value from just putting a lot of benefit into a run, right? Like Desperado getting credit, Data Sucker getting a virus counter, this and that. It really adds up to the point where you're running, accessing cards, and gaining money.
yeah.
Which this can do, but 5 to install for a payout of 12, that's a net 7 over 4 clicks. Like, it's okay. It's not great.
I think it's fine, and it's probably like I assume we'll still see this around, but like
Yeah, I mean, like, unlike liberated accounts, which I think this compares to,
yes,
you get the payout while making runs, which is quite valuable.
yeah. Don't fuck up.
That too.
You don't lose it off the card, but you don't get the 3 if you get bounced.
Yep.
Uh, Tranquilizer viruses are a main in Anarch, but they're in every faction.
Mm-hmm.
This one just sleep.
Yeah, that's cool art.
Uh, the big thing with this is that how this works with some cards we've seen. Okay, when you install this program, and when the turn begins, virus counter on. If there's 3, derez the ice it's on.
Yep.
Um, if you control Cookbook, it starts with 2. And if you control another card from a different, just pull up Hive Mind showing, because the existence of Hive Mind is something you kind of have to know about when it comes to viruses. Hive Mind is very funky for rules. It is place 1 virus counter on it when it's installed, or 2 if you control Cookbook, obviously. Virus counters on Hive Mind are considered to be hosted on all other viruses for the purposes of card effects and can be spent as if on them. So if you have a Hive Mind, your derez there from Tranquilizer will like auto go off.
Yep. It'll come into play, trigger, get a counter, trigger, get a counter, and then have one more from Hive Mind. It'll have 3 counters when it checks the trigger, and it'll derez the eyes at instant speed.
Yeah. Also, like,
Very, very strong.
Fermenter here looks at each hosted virus counter. It doesn't spend them. It just looks at them. Hive Mind
Yep.
says they are counted as hosted. Things like that.
And then you can even spend the counters from Hive Mind to use Botulus if need be.
Yes. So
yeah, pretty cool stuff. Tranquilizer in Criminal, though, is kind of interesting. Because criminals are often quite short on memory to spare, it seems like. Or I guess either they're not building a rig or they have no spare memory.
Right. There's no in between when it comes to criminal. It's you're either like rigless or you're like you have 3 tapeworms, you're breakers, and you're like, where the fuck is my mem?
Yeah.
Deresing makes the attachment fall off. On this one, yes.
No.
Sorry.
It'll stay attached on there.
It will have no effect. It won't fall off.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because like.
So cards only lose their association with attachments if they leave
Yeah.
play zones or change play zones.
It also would depend on the install this text as well. If this were to say on a resed piece of ice, right?
True.
I don't know if. I don't think that's the wording on Botulus.
I don't think Botulus cares either. Yeah, just on a piece. Versus like Parasite.
Here we go.
You had to be.
Yeah, this is the reason I thought it fell off, because my mind always thinks of Parasite.
That's right. Yep.
But yeah, it depends on the text. I think.
So yeah, if you had a Parasite on an ice that got derez, the Parasite would fall off because game rules are updated and says, oh, not resed.
So yes, the ice would derez every turn if it hit the threshold. Yes, 3 or more.
Yep, but it only triggers on install or start of turn. So if it gets 3 like during a run, it won't trigger.
Yes. So, like the timing on that is important. But yeah, this would repeatedly turn down an ice, and what your opponent would do is overwrite the ice.
Overwrite the ice, yeah. I think very rarely do you ever try to purge to stop this, because it just comes right back again.
Yeah,
So I think just overriding the ice is the
the
best
general.
play.
So like there's been a long time of playing against Knight, playing against this, playing against that one uh Shaper card that's like when you pass this ice, gain $2, like that.
Oh yeah, yep,
The answer is you can overwrite the ice and get rid of it, and that gets
yeah,
rid of the program.
yep.
Tread lightly. One run event, run a server during the run. Res cost of each piece of ice is increased by 3. This is. There's a number of cards that occupy this territory specifically. I don't know if Tread Lightly is the best at this because there's
Yeah, I would lump this in with like Inside Job.
well, I think of Silent. No. Um shit. I forget the name of it, but it's like 2 run event, make a run, de-res all ice res during this run.
Oh, I think is that an Anarch card?
No, it's a 2 cost uh I
Uh,
forget the name of it, but it's
I can't remember, but yeah, yeah.
but like
Um,
this is we've had a couple runs in this space, and like this is going to be fine at doing that. Like if you need to make a run, like this makes it a lot more expensive for your opponent to like want to stop you.
yeah. Well, and honestly, this is a card that very much goes in that rigless criminal deck, where it's like, I'm gonna contest your remote server with or without icebreakers. Like, you're gonna have to keep me out of there somehow, and it's gonna cost you something for it.
Blueberry Diesel, hey, how you doing?
I'm trying to find that card.
Not Spot the Prey, not Ripdeal, not Mobius. Maybe it is in a different.
There's
There it
an
is. There it is.
Anarch one.
There it is. Leave no trace.
Ah, okay, yep.
Make a
There
run
it
when
is.
the run ends. De-res all ice that was res during the run. This
Yeah,
is
yeah. It's actually quite similar to that. Yep.
yeah. That was the card I was thinking of when it comes to. But yeah.
Yeah.
Sup. All right. Let's go. And then
If you I just said this earlier, but if you set the side to runner, you can save yourself a lot of scrolling.
there we go. All right. All right. All we have left is. Oh, we still have shape after this.
Zaya.
Zaya's here. Zaya is so 40-15. When you make a run, when a run on HQ R&D ends, timing, you may gain 1 for each time you access the card during that run once per turn. You can choose the timing on it. It's not first, and it wants you to multi-access. And one of the most interesting points about Zaya, like if I take a look at, like I'm just gonna go criminal and I'm gonna go ident. Let's take a look at criminal idents, right? All right. We've got
A lot of them say first. Holy cow!
so HQ
Never
liker.
noticed that.
Like we have a lot of HQ likers.
Yep.
HQ liker. HQ liker.
Yeah, I don't think there's any crim that references R&D on it
Yeah,
besides Zaya.
central on Lisa.
Yes.
But push cards to HQ, force cards into HQ with draw. Santiago, first run on HQ, make 2. So like, and like if you take a look at the cards in criminal, it's like they have the most HQ pressure. That's their thing. Oh hey, gang sign. But yeah, so having Zaya here, BHU or R&D lets you spread your pressure a lot. And you can build towards big multi-access, either like a legwork refunded, or maybe something down here that works well.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because because Zaya, unlike Gabe, her payout scales. So like you can get a big chunk of money from a run, right? Like if you legwork with the Docklands Pass installed and you access 4 cards, that's 4 credits. That's a free sure gamble that you got to play without spending a card or a click.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
So big multi-access. I'm excited to see how Zaya plays out, especially because like R&D pressure is obviously something you want to be doing, and they know that. But like, you're going to be getting refunded for it if you're, doing some big R&D pushing. So
Hmm. And like big multi-access runs has not traditionally been a criminal thing. I mean, like I guess HQ to some
right,
extent, but even then, like
everybody
I would say
knows
less so than
every criminal
Shaper.
has a legwork, right? Every single
Yeah,
criminal is holding like 2 legwork. That's um, yeah,
but like even the like back in the day, the medium for HQ called Nerve Agent, that was an Anarch card, not a criminal card.
yeah, weird.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Zaya's quite good.
Jailbreak, run HQ R&D. If successful, draw a card, and when you breach, access +1.
This one is interesting. It seems hard to justify a card slot for this.
That's the
Almost, it's such a small effect.
that's something I've been thinking as well. Even like building Ken, like this refunds on Ken, and like it
Yeah,
refunds it. The thing is, it refunds itself. It is a good card, but
right.
its opportunity cost is the biggest issue. You kind of want your multi-access bits. Turning Wheel is a neutral one. There's a Shaper card we'll be getting to. That's another one
Yeah,
for multi-access. But yes, Turning Wheel is the one I think you're probably thinking of.
yeah. And I guess like on some level, Jailbreak is almost like a card that cycles for 0, right? Like you play it for free and you get a draw
You
card.
draw
Like
right. It is
that's
free
pretty
in that
good.
way. Like,
Yeah.
but like the deck cost is going to be the biggest cost
It's
here.
interesting. Like Netrunner is one of the card games that I think has the hardest time to justify a card being in your deck because it's so tight every
Well,
time.
again, especially like when we're on these 40/15s, which are even
Yeah,
smaller.
yeah.
So I like the card though, and that makes it an interesting question of like, are you do you want something like that? Like this is almost a like 0 cost for a small legwork, right? And it's a
Hmm.
small legwork that like gets gets a refund. But the problem there is when you're playing legwork, the reason you play legwork is usually I want to see your full hand because I think your hand contains 2 agendas, right?
Right, exactly.
You're calling a timing window and you want the big effect. Whereas
Yeah.
jailbreak, jailbreak's probably still fine here because it's going to be getting +2 credits on this
Yeah.
access.
But you can play it in that same window that you would play legwork and not get anything for it because you
Right.
missed the points.
But it's also more flexible in that it can R&D double access. Like so,
Hmm.
I like the design on it because it looks on the surface, it's like, oh shit, this is really efficient. But it's like, where do I fit this?
Yep.
Do I take
Yep.
out the higher impact cards? Do I take out the draw? Where does this fit in?
Yeah.
That's the biggest question here.
I see this getting cut very often as like the 46th card. It's like just barely not making the cut.
Hmm.
Mayfly though. Mayfly's a cool card.
Mayfly is an AI icebreaker. AI icebreakers are all ice. Like
Yep.
there are some cards that are anti AI. And in this one, they generally, obviously, you can't just have a better breaker that breaks everything, so they have drawbacks. This one, strength pump for 1 costs 2 mem. That's half your mem. 1 to pump, 1 to break. When this run ends, trash this program. So for the run you use this in, it's the all breaker. It does everything, but
Hmm.
only for that run. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
really good for 1 run, and that's nice. But
Yeah. I think this card is really cool. It
yes,
reminds me a lot of the old school Crim used to play, where you would just have Crypsis and run, and that was it. And that was all you needed. I think this definitely reminds me of that, and honestly, it seems way better than that. Like
yeah.
I think this could have potential in
Well,
modern standard. Is like just
the thing about it is that it gives you your opponent might see, I can gear check you and bounce you out and score early,
and
and
this card says nah.
like I don't care what you're gear checking with, I'm in. Like
Yeah.
I will get through, and I will get
Yeah.
through fairly cheap. It's efficient.
Yeah.
So
1 to install, like, and 1 to 1 for pump and break. Like, yeah,
so
very good.
so it's going to ask you the hard question of when, right? When do you pull the trigger on that? So
hmm But very, very good for contesting early game plays.
I think overclock first needs us to show. Okay, so if Jackson Howard is the most important, okay, I don't think that StimHack is the most important runner
It's
card,
probably the most splashed runner card, I
but
would say.
because Jackson's like a 3 of everywhere, StimHack, it's like this is what you do with your leftover influence
Yeah.
every time, every day.
Yeah. This is
Like
how you round out your deck.
this is the darkest of dark writ.
Oh my god, yeah.
This is the darkest writ. This is
Yeah. Like if this was a magic card, it would say
this
like
is
1
channel.
cost, gain 10 mana, and then like discard your hand or something. I don't know.
We're casting channel or whatever.
Yeah.
Stimback is 0 for 9. Take a brain damage, which is discard a card at random and lose a hand size.
Yeah, permanently.
Yeah, permanently lose a hand size. And can't be prevented. Stimhack at 1 influence is it like always, and you can see weird. It has like multiple runs. I don't know. Like one of the biggest communities is in Netrunner is just called Stimhack. You know, uh, this might be an influential card, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. And it's
Anyway,
got great like flavor too, right?
yeah, you
It's
just
this anarch runner who's like pumping himself full of drugs to try to break into the corp server. I think that's cool.
they decided that like hey, maybe we should like try to do a little bit more on the balance on that. Overclock is an attempt at a neutral stim hack.
Yeah. And I think this is a lot more reasonable. It compares more closely with Sure Gamble in that
Mm-hmm.
it's 1 cost gain 5, so net 4. But you also get a run with it, which
Yeah.
is quite good for tempo.
One of the things about stim hack is like that always made it one of the scariest cards in Netrunner is like, okay, I'm the corp. I build the server, and the runner has like 12 credits in their breaker suite. I build my server, and I'm like, hey, come on in, and they come in. They spend a lot of their money. They're down to like $2, and they get in. Cool, timing window. Time
Yeah.
for me to score. They go pull 3 stim hack, and you're like,
Welp.
hmm,
Yep.
you aren't broke, huh? Because that was 0 for 9. Let me list the number of actions that are a +9 in the game of Netrunner. Stim hack. Like,
Account siphon?
account siphon is a +15, so true.
Also not in standard anymore.
Yeah, diversion of funds is a +10 for a double.
Yeah.
But like rare, so this is 1 for 5. This is like again, this is the idea with this card is that it's reach. You know,
hmm
you think that you're trying to trick your opponent into thinking, oh, they can't make that run. Then they
Yeah.
make that run.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it very much is about like what you're presenting that you're capable of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like in like good corps are going to have to account for the stem hack or the overclock in the runner's hand, but you know, it allows you to make it seem as though you can't contest when you actually have 5 more credits than, you
Yeah.
know, you
Yes.
seem like you would.
Yep. So.
Very cool. And the art is sick. I love the art on
Yeah.
overclock. Beautiful.
I am interested to see what the playability on it is. Like, how will overclock be? It won't be StimHack ubiquitous, but like, where will we see it? Will we see it? Neutral, no influence. It can be anywhere.
Yeah, and
How?
it's interesting, right? Because like it doesn't. I'm confident it doesn't take the place of Sure Gamble, and I
No,
don't think it gets played as often as Sure Gamble, but
no.
probably not too far off either. I don't know.
Uh, Smartware distributor. Uh,
Also, great art. Just some crappy old van.
yeah.
Dude selling apparently smartware out of it.
Uh, click for 3 credits is a lot of money, but you get it
It's
slowly.
slow. Yeah. It reminds me a bit of Armitage from the core set.
It there was There was like a pad campaign that kind of worked like this. I remember. Um, on the corp side, it was 0, and you put $3 on it. Remember?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was like 0, maybe 5 trash, and you put $3 on it, and you kind of kept
Was it
charging it.
uh the front business, or what was it called? I can't remember now. It's been too
Yeah,
long.
but reminds me of that, and like again, click for 3 credits is way like that's super like strong, but
Mhm.
delayed 3 credits, like if you're playing this, you need to know that you're not playing a short game, right? You're not, or you're playing this because you want to, um, like you want a continuous drip. You know, you want to be able to make like maybe continuous runs, but you're not. You know that you're playing this and you're planning for future turns.
Yeah, it kind of occupies like a kind of worst of both worlds between the drip econ and the click econ,
Because
right? Like
you don't get it immediately, but you also,
you have to keep feeding it.
yeah.
You can have multiples of this, but man, does that seem not ideal. Like if you had 3 of these in play and you had to click each one, and maybe you had it like on 3 separate like cycles or whatever, but
At that
that's
point, you'd still
still
be clicking for 3 credits effectively.
effectively you're clicking for 3 credits, yeah,
Like, so
which is
again,
not bad.
it's efficient still. Like, it's because, like, okay, the way I think of it is, in general, the runner can click for 1 credit. Um, if the runner has an efficient click for credit system, they're probably getting 2, magnum opus level
Yep.
stuff. This is click for 3, but the obvious drawback.
Yeah,
So,
and I suppose early game there are some turns where you have like a click as the runner, and you're like, well, I could draw a card or I could gain a credit. Maybe you just click this and you go, you know what? I'll get 3 credits in 3 turns, and that's cool.
hot streak in Arkham that's 5 gain 10. Rationally angry they didn't just call it Sure Gamble because the art's nearly. Yeah. Welcome to Sure Gamble.
I really like the new art. It's great.
It's 5 for 9. Everybody knows Sure Gamble. Everybody plays Sure Gamble. Like it is. You have to have something real weird up your sleeve to not be including Sure Gamble or Hedge Fund.
Yeah.
Your deck has to be doing something because, again, 5 for 9 is 5 is your start, and if you get this on a start, A+.
Yeah, playing this on the first turn is just feels so good. Feels so good every time.
Yep. Uh, T400
T400. This one's interesting.
+1 mem, +1 hand size.
Yeah, like +1 hand size is not very common anymore.
No,
Nor is +1 mem in neutral. I think this is the only neutral mem card currently in standard.
huh? Yeah, we used to have the link chip. That was
Yeah, Q
L,
coherence chip and LLDS processor.
which
There's some
is
other just
called out here.
blank
LLDS
chip
holds the
thing.
patent.
Right? Yeah. Which yeah, I just think this is cool. It seems pretty reasonable.
All right, the neutral. Hey, how you doing for the test play? Verbal
Yeah.
plasticity. First,
So hold on, really quick.
oh yeah,
One
yeah.
thing cool that they did with the neutral runner is that they made it ungendered and androgynous. So it's like kind
There's
of futuristic in that sense. It's like
there,
it can be anyone or whatever. But
yeah. Well, as we've as we've been going through, that's one of the things I've always like kind of prided Netrunner on being very good about is having a very wide swath of characters that are all like all walks of life are runners. That's just how it
yeah,
works.
and there's no. It doesn't feel like there's any one culture that's overly represented. Like it
Mm-hmm.
really feels like this is the future where everyone's kind of everywhere.
Yep.
But
Uh,
yeah, we're almost to the end now.
yep. Verbal plasticity. First time you take your basic draw action, draw 2.
I can't actually decide if this is good or not.
I know, right? That's like I see this and I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool, right? Like it's like
It's like Wild Side, honestly.
yeah, it's I mean it's a wild side that you could choose to activate.
Yeah.
So
So in some sense, it's strictly
it's
better,
better
but
than Wild, but like Wildside also had like you might have had some sort of like things that
some
came
other
around.
stuff. But like also too, like you don't generally want to be taking the basic draw action. Maybe you do if
Maybe
it's
you
two
do.
cards.
Maybe you do if it's two
Yeah,
cards. Maybe you're just
yeah,
planning on doing this. Maybe this is Wildside, but you can turn it off, right?
yeah.
Maybe that's fine.
And every runner needs some amount of card draw to get going, and I think this is a reasonable option.
Yeah. Um.
It's unique, even though it doesn't need to be, because having multiples wouldn't do anything. But whatever.
Sadly, we lost symmetric visage.
Yeah, that was Sansan.
Because that's, I think, when you take your draw action for the first time,
You
gain a
get a free
credit.
buck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which would have been a
yeah,
funny, like, you could build this cool engine.
yeah. That'd be interesting.
Um, I, st- but yeah, talking about it and thinking of this as Wildside makes it actually more interesting in my mind.
Yeah. Like honestly, this seems like a strictly better wild side if you like compare it to just the core set
Yeah,
options. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like on the edge of playable.
I'm gonna keep this one in mind and like maybe it's something that could get pulled out and it's like, oh wait, that's actually really good for us. Like,
Yep,
if
it's
you
neutral. It plays well with career fair, which
yep,
is already a
three
highly
is
played card.
three is exactly the cost you want to see on.
Yep, it's like exactly what you want.
Career
So
Fair
yeah,
is
I think it's
installed -3, so yeah.
pretty reasonable card overall.
All right. Finally in Shaper, Conduit. Uh, oh boy. Conduit is a retrain ish of Medium.
Yeah,
Medium was I have the menu up.
there it is. Boom.
When you make a successful run, virus counter. Each virus counter after the first gives you an additional access. So you access cards equal to virus counters on it.
Yeah,
So
back in the day, like the scariest thing playing as Anarch
medium,
was to not ice
run,
R&D
run.
turn one,
Medium, yep, just
and they could
medium.
just go medium, run, 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 access like 6 cards,
And
and
you could lose on the spot.
yep,
So Conduit is a interesting take on that because it, for one, it gains the virus counters and it is a plus X, so it actually is faster than medium. Like,
well, it says when a run ends, you may place a virus counter on it. So the first
oh
one
yeah, I guess.
still you just
Oh,
get 0
yeah.
extra cards.
Okay, so it's the same. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, the timing windows are all different on it though. Okay.
Mhm.
But it doesn't work with run events. You can't combine this with Maker's Eye. You can't combine this with. You can combine this with Turning Wheel. You can you can go to town
Yep.
if you want to go that far.
Dig real deep. You can't combo it with red team, the
Yeah.
new criminal
Yep.
resource.
But like still the thing is that even a medium that like this medium here is a like we took medium and made it weaker 2 times over. I still think
strong.
that's strong.
Still
Like that's
very
still
good. Yeah, highly playable, and even at 4 influence, probably will get pulled out of action.
yeah, especially
It's
like
a
you pull it into Anarch as a virus, great. I play it with Hive Mind. I play it with the cookbook, and I
yep.
use all of these things to let me into R&D to access 5 cards.
Yep. Yeah. There's no other card in standard that provides as consistent and threatening pressure on R&D right now.
Yeah, the most I can think of would be like Stargate, but that's a once
Yeah.
per turn
Yep.
because it's a keyhole that's been retrained.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of those cards these days.
Yeah. Keyhole.
There's not much else, right? Like Turning
No.
Wheel, I guess.
Turning
You
Wheel's
could
the
count.
one. Turning Wheel's the one I
It's like
think of.
consistent pressure, but that
So
like Turning Wheel does not compare very favorably to
strong,
Conduit.
strong.
Yeah.
Another part on this. Medium was dumb in that double medium
Oh, that's true.
was a thing you could do too. Like, you can't double Conduit because
You can only click one.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah. Creative Commission, we're going to see another card like this here. This is a sure gamble, but if you don't use it, last click, you lose a click.
Yeah.
Please,
so like
please play this
less
last click.
good when you're trying to like prep for a run or something like that, but very efficient, very good. I mean, sure, Gamble is a good card, and playing it for one is good as well. So
Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
you're not locked out of using it to push for a run if you absolutely need
yep,
to.
yep.
Because it doesn't lose you your whole click. You don't want to do that. DZMZ optimizer.
I'm sorry, that's DZMZ optimizer, Jens.
Des.
Pretty sure Tau is British, so
Okay.
DZMZ.
All right. DZMZ Zed
Optimizer.
Optimizetter. Optim. But
This
yeah.
is actually a pretty cool card. This one gets me excited.
Well, like program install. This is a mem chip that also has Kate's old
Yeah.
uh uh text part of it, not all of
Yep.
it.
And you can stack it and get multiple discounts,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. The only thing is, I feel like Rig Builder Shaper particularly is not very good right now. I think Corps are a little too fast, but
Still,
I'm still kind of turned on by this card. I think that's cool.
no.
Makes me want to play Haley, which rotated, unfortunately.
Yeah. Echelon. +1 strength for each install icebreaker. This is again rig builder shaper.
Yep.
Uh,
So
three.
this is a killer, which is I think one of their weaker
Yes,
uh, types of ice to break. But
but like this, if you actually can set up like high strength on this is incredible bullshit. Holy.
yeah, I mean this is pretty cool. Like even just a standard rig of one killer, one fractor, one decoder. It's a 3 strength
Yeah.
Yogg almost, right? I mean it's basically better than the Anarch's version, the
Yes.
buzzsaw.
Yeah. Like
But
I'm excited by this because it says that the rig builder might be a real zone.
yeah, yeah, I think it's quite decent, quite decent.
Uh, Pantograph console +1 mem. When an agenda is scored or stolen, gain one, and you may install a card. This is so hard to like feel out because like agenda scored or stolen is a line of text that will only happen 4 to 5 times in a game
Yeah,
at maximum, unless you're in a wacky hyper sports metal match.
yeah, and
Um,
installing cards is usually something that you do like in preparation for future actions. Like
but this is a lot of click compression on it too.
it is, yeah, and it's quite valuable, right? You also get a credit.
Yeah.
I just I don't know what you would want to install in reaction to an agenda being scored or stolen, right? Like, what's something that you would absolutely want to have down immediately following that?
I,
I can't think of anything.
I install the clot from my hand and shake my fist
And
to the
just like,
heavens.
ah,
Curse God. Like, what?
right? I mean, you can prevent the second fast advance of the turn with that,
Yeah,
so
gotcha.
maybe.
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
Probably like virus or econ stuff.
I mean, like maybe conduit if like your opponent scores and you want to just start pounding R&D immediately after.
Yeah.
I guess I see it.
Yeah.
Install a gun. Yeah, that's pretty smart
My
actually.
guess would literally be like if you're a program heavy virus style deck, right, or something like that. But
Yeah,
is
and you
that
can probably get a lot of tempo from that for sure.
so? Uh, yeah, cheap, but again, scored or stolen. That's hard. That text doesn't come up a lot.
Yep.
Um, telework contract.
Yeah. Speaking of scored or stolen, actually, let's do Tau first.
Yeah. Okay. Tau. Uh,
Um,
whew.
very interesting effect. Something that we have not seen even remotely similar to this on a runner before.
And especially within the like, this is technically in like we've seen. I think maybe a card or two like this in Shaper.
Yeah, yeah, this is definitely like in Shaper's color pie, I think.
I think, but it's so rare. I can only think of a couple cards that even come close to like doing this sort of. You can,
Yeah,
honestly,
Escher is like the main one.
right? Escher is the one that comes to mind, and I think there's one other not program that does something. So anyway, this is like I think of this as a Jinteki, But the trick is swapping installed ice is really strong.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a board that like okay, I'm trying to beat up R&D, and they put ice over it. They score an agenda. All of a sudden, I move the ice off of R&D onto this remote. All of a sudden, HQ is wide open. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, like there's a lot of like you can make openings, and it's not just on score or your score or their steal. It's both. So like if you're behind, you can create the openings. If you're ahead, you can keep the opening and keep the pressure
Yeah, yeah.
on.
Very cool. Interesting too is that it seems like one of the main counterplays that has developed in response to Tau is to just simply not put ice on certain servers like archives or HQ,
Right, because like
because putting an ice there allows for Tau to use that as like as a place to put potentially really big ice that you've put a lot of money into.
you rezzed hey look, we're here, you rezzed Pharos.
Yep.
All of a sudden Pharos is on archives and you're like,
And you're a sad, sad corp.
you did not want that to be on archives, that's for sure.
Yep. And yeah, corps have very few ways to actually move their own ice, so typically when Tau moves something, it'll stick there.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, it doesn't have to be rezzed, but it has to be like you can't move on to a nothing, you can't swap with a nothing.
yeah.
So yeah,
Um
the thing that really makes Tau really interesting is that Tau is unique. Tau is something new in Shaper a lot.
yeah.
Like
Pretty cool stuff.
so, telework feels like a better version of this.
Smartware. Yeah, it kind of is,
like
honestly.
like
Yeah, it pretty much is.
the
Telework actually compares quite closely to liberated accounts, even though it doesn't look like it.
yeah.
Um,
One thing to note, if you're playing telework, okay, one of the more ubiquitous cards in game is Aesop's Pawn Shop. Hi, there's like 5 different pawn shops here. When your turn begins, trash card to gain 3. With your telework, uh, again, telework is clicked to pull 3 off, and trashes when it goes to empty. It is better to Aesop's to grab that last 3
yep.
because you don't spend the click, even though it's 3 and 3. You might immediately think, like, oh, that's just 3 and 3 out. No, it's better to do that because you don't spend the click. So another card that works well with Aesop's. That's always nice.
Yeah, less good with Aesop's than other cards, but you're right. Still value.
Right. If you're opportunity costed on Aesop's and you want to use it on something else, that's the
Yeah.
but
But yeah, so like this nets you 8 credits over 4 clicks, which is 2 credits per click,
yep.
compared to liberated accounts, which nets you 10 credits over 5 clicks. So
Okay. Compare
quite similar actually.
also, but a much lower initial invest.
Right. Yeah, you can use this to bounce back from nothing basically, and like that's really sweet.
Yeah.
Versus liberated, you have to have 6 credits before you can even start doing anything with it.
Yep.
So yeah, I think this is like just a decent card. I think it will see play.
Yeah. Unity.
Unity's cool.
Unity again builds on the theme here of a build a rig. Unity is 3 for 1, but has +1 for strength per installed icebreaker,
Including this one. Yeah, that's cool.
Which means that like full rig 1 for 3 strength, or maybe 1 for 4 if you're at.
If you have some extra or something.
Yeah. I don't know. You gotta you have a fourth breaker just hanging out, but like that's
you got like a fem or something, or maybe a mayfly just chilling.
Yeah, big chilling.
But yeah, no, this is cool. This is interesting. This is a pump effect that we have not seen before either.
Yeah,
so
and it fills in, of course, as we said, code gate breaking is in Shapers. That's
a
big thing. Last card, VRcation. This is the opposite of the creative commissions, 1 cost, so you draw 4. This card is sadly worse in my mind than creative commission. because you need to get your hand down. Like it's not going to be not as flexible, maybe not worse, because you want
Yeah,
to do this last click. Like last click draw 4. Boy howdy, you ever played a game of Hearthstone and then done life tap at the end of your turn? It felt like the biggest
tap
idiot.
blast. Oh
Tap
yeah.
last, that it's that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
You absolutely don't want a VRcation and then like draw and be like, oh, um, but it is also very efficient.
Yeah.
Like,
Draw 4 for 1 credit is pretty huge.
yeah. So our lines. So let me talk about our lines we're working with. Uh, Hi, this is the line. This is one of the other. This is a very ubiquitous card.
Yep.
We talked about anonymous tip. We talked about things like this. Diesel gives you flames. 0 draw 3. This is one of the only games that I can think of where this is not broken.
Yeah, it's just like meh. Honestly, it's not even really worth playing in every deck.
um, Quality time is another one of the baselines I keep in mind. 3 for 5.
Yeah.
So 1 for 4 is very strong, and it even beats out the Wildcat Strike, which is 2 for 4.
Yep.
So, other card draw lines in this game.
Yeah, I've been worse.
Yep.
Earthrise, I guess, is another one to compare to.
Yeah, that's the more drip, and it's harder to put that. But Earthrise is draw 6 over 4.
Yeah.
So,
But the VRcation excels at like setting up in the early game. Say turn 1, you
yes.
install 3 cards, and then VRcation, boom, you get a full
Boom.
hand again. You're
Yep.
ready to go.
Yeah. You go sure gamble, install. Uh, let's go.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, pretty good. I think it'll be played in a lot of Shaper decks. I don't think it'll get splash out of faction for
yeah.
2 influence. I think you can do a lot better for 2 influence, but in Shaper, definitely.
So, anyway, that's been us talking about Netrunner cards for 2.5 hours. I hope you enjoyed our podcast in visual form. Uh, we'll do some games next week.
Yeah, I want to play some games.
Yeah, I want to. Like I said, I pulled uh, this list off of NeuroDB, but I shifted. I guess I did that before I logged in because I'm dumb. I shifted up some of the cards in here, so I'll have to change this list up.
Yeah,
But
cool.
yeah, Anyway, that's been us talking about Netrunner cards. We'll be doing some games because as we've said, there's a lot in here that's well worth exploring, seeing what we have in here because it's super interesting stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Dakota, for jumping in.
Yeah, no problem.
Hope you all had fun with this. Our plan is that Netrunner is going to continue on Mondays. So look forward to Netrunner Mondays for future stream plans.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to catch more, you can always follow. See when I go live. Thank you to everybody who did follow and subscribe today. I appreciate it a lot. If you subscribe, you get access to cool skulls and slimes and stuff. Support the channel. 7 Central weekdays, 4 Central, 2 Central weekends are the general start times. And upcoming stream stuff. Tomorrow is going to be more Strixhaven, but enjoying that draft format. It's been a really interesting draft format because there's like the color combos aren't the same as what you'd think. Boros is like Boros isn't the aggro is the biggest thing I can say there. They're a much slower deck. They can be aggro, but they're generally not. Wednesday, me and Luke are going to be continuing Final Fantasy VIII. We've got a little bit more to go, and then we're going to be entering Infinite Side Quest Zone, which it's just going to be more cards. There's always more cards. And then Thursday is going to be continuing Celeste. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Have a good night, everybody.